I think we're live. So, let's get the party started. I will actually not show that. I'll show Discord. There we go. That's a bit better. Okie dokie. And I'll just pull up my YouTube. All right, here we go. All right, everyone. It feels like so much has been happening over the past couple of weeks in WoW Classic. You know, it's one of those things where I think I've found a good little window of time where I can go, oh, I'll take a little bit of a break. We'll go 3 or 4 weeks between podcast episodes here. You know, the rabid countdown of Classic fans can wait. And then, of course, all fucking hell breaks loose. And I got to bust out a podcast and talk about all this stuff with you. But, you know, I love to do it. So let's sink our teeth in. Look, it's so good to be able to get a few people on here. We will go through the usual suspects first before getting to our new guest, who I'm very excited to introduce to you. North, my friend, you just finished a raid. You claim that a flare.
I didn't finish.
Dropped.
I'm mid job right now. Like we're in it. The Guardians will die by my hand for my 4K gear score mage that ratted its way into a heroic TOGC.
Oh my god! So yeah, did flare drop or what?
Flare dropped at the end of this. Yeah, we do like Aldebaran thing. I'm currently trying to bully one of the other officers in the guild to passing it. It's his second warlock. It's my 4th mage. So, you know, it's not looking good for me morally, but I have an heirloom trinket on right now. So
it's not your first flare though, right? It's not your first flare.
No, but it would be my 2nd flare.
I feel like your last one dropped when we were recording as well.
It's also his 2nd flare, and he's a lock. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm a mage, right?
But I feel like you had a flare drop last time we were speaking as well. I don't know if I'm your good luck charm or not.
We actually did. We did. And I passed that one. I passed that one to this guy, but then we were like, oh shit, another guildie needs it. We actually have to, you know, it was just main the whole thing. So yeah, no, I'm not pass raid. I'm mid raid, but it's the last boss. So I'll be locked in. I'll be fully focused.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, fuck. Come on, countdown to classic more often. You'll get more flares.
Except for my cat sitting there and destroying my AirPods in the corner of the room for some reason.
Oh, good. Well, you almost shot your cat last time we recorded as well. Remember when you thought you had?
No, it wasn't my cat. It was the other cat. My cat wouldn't do that. My cat wouldn't do that. My cat is lovely. My cat sits in my room and she sits on my lap. And that's the other cats are doing psycho shit and pretending to be murderers. So that's
fair enough.
That's
fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next guest. Who you guys enjoyed these two together so much last time. They were just this Batman and Robin duo that I really enjoyed, and I was so rude and I kept fucking up their flow last time and asking stupid podcast questions. So we'll just try and let them do their own thing today again. Hunk, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. I've got a bit of a performance anxiety after this little intro.
They're hyping us up too much.
I know, right? Like Batman and Robin, far out. Maybe Tango and Cash.
Who was whom in that?
Well, why don't you sort it out amongst yourselves?
Am I Robin because I'm younger, or am I Batman because I'm clearly
Whoa! Did you just assume Hunk's age?
Look,
Hunk was old.
I'm okay
Hunk was old when the world was young.
I was old when this game was first released.
Yeah, and I was 9, or 8, or 7. I don't even.
I think what we can both agree on though is that if we're Batman and Robin, that makes Josh Alfred.
Oh, happily.
True. I don't even think he's mad about that.
Am I Michael Caine, Alfred?
He's clearly the only guy with any sensibility in that, right? Like,
he looks good in a suit too.
Don't make me start doing my fucking Michael Caine. All right, here we go. Let's get out of there. I'm so happy to introduce our next guest to you. You might have seen him if you're on Twitter. If you're still on Twitter, you might have seen him floating around there doing his thing of late. He has been really, really good with the news from Classic WoW. Getting a little bit spicy, and you know we'll see what comes of it all. But I'm so happy to introduce Entice, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. But yeah, so I've been covering a lot of the Classic news. We don't limit ourselves to Classic, but right now, Classic's definitely taken the forefront of what's happening just because of the sheer magnitude of everything at the moment.
Mate, is it fair to say you've already copped the comment a couple of times, the TMZ of Classic WoW? Is that relatively fair?
Yeah, I've gotten that, and I've gotten the Jake Lucky guy. He's like another guy that does kind of Twitter news. Yeah, I've gotten that as well, which I didn't even know. I didn't really know too much of him, and then now I know. But yeah, it's kind of blown up in the last couple of days. So lots of different messages, and some nice, some not so. But it is what it is at the moment.
Oh, have you been getting the death threats via DMs yet? You're not.
Oh yeah, actually.
Nice.
I didn't know,
Well, I shouldn't say nice, but you know
how much I
what I mean.
wanted to go into it, but yeah, I got my first death threat the other day.
Like a legit, proper. I'm coming for you.
Yeah. They said that
no.
if I was going to BlizzCon.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Well, I was joking, and now that I know the content,
that's what I'm saying. It was very, very detailed. But it's not much of a concern because I'm not going to BlizzCon.
God, people are fucked up, aren't they?
Sorry?
God, people are fucked up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It really doesn't bother me, to be honest. Just because I feel like a lot of it's just, internet facade.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I started laughing at first, because this is a horrible thing to say, but I usually say to people like, okay, when you say death threat, what do you mean? Because sometimes it's like, oh, they said I hoped I die. And I'm like, all right, well.
No, this guy was very detailed.
Okay, all right.
Very, very detailed.
It
came in, because I don't know if you've, on Twitter, you get they've changed the DMs where it's now there's hidden DMs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I didn't see it for a day or two. And then there's hidden DMs that you have to go in and actually accept. I think it's when they don't follow you or something.
Accept their request to message you or something.
Yeah, it was one of those ones.
Yeah.
So I went in there and then I only found it was a couple of days ago, but I only found it say yesterday or something like that.
Oh, that's no good. Fucking report.
You haven't responded?
No, I haven't responded. No.
Yeah, no, I know you haven't responded. Just kidding.
Hunk's just trying to get your attention.
Just kidding.
He just likes your work. What, out of interest, what tweet was it that you think brought that one about?
So there's a lot of things that have been going on. Obviously, the hardcore death stuff's been taking a lot of the spotlight, but the one that I can only, because he doesn't actually say, he just goes straight into the death threat. But the other thing I can feel like that set him up for it was there was another drama going on amongst a couple of the classic streamers of Peo and Stay Safe, where Peo has claimed that Stay Safe is view botting. And it was around that stage where I was putting a few tweets out, some video clips like that, when I started getting those types of. Well, I got one death threat, so it was around that era. So I can only imagine it was something to do with that, because people are very weird with their parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
With
well, that makes it sound like it might have come
So-
from the Stay Safe side of things as opposed to the Peo side of things. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, because what I'm getting
I
at
couldn't
is
say
the
either or.
tweet was about their feud, and you're saying, because I've seen this as well, I've seen through your tweets, Peo's making a big deal out of saying Stay Safe's inflating his numbers. So I would imagine if someone were upset by that, it would have been one of Stay Safe's fans as opposed to one of Peo's fans.
Yeah, but I've also done tweets of Stay Safe defending himself against those claims.
Yeah.
So it could have been
then
that.
It
That's what I'm saying. It could be either or. But
All
yeah,
right.
it's just silliness.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll tear through the silliness because, I think that's all part of your shtick at the moment, and I'm happy to give you a big plug, and we'll have a bit of a fun chat about it. But maybe before we get to the fucking streamer v streamer drama, not that I'll weigh too heavily in on that, and I won't spend too much time on it. Let's talk about the hardcore incident. Now, look, by now, I'm sure many of you have seen, heard, that there was a rather high-profile wipe in hardcore recently on Bloodsail Buccaneers. Highly publicized raid going on through Nax. I believe the guild was HC Elite. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. They were saying, right, we're going for Kel'Thuzad. This is going to be the first time that Kel'Thuzad's been killed in hardcore. Let's fucking go. People were watching. They were tearing the place apart. Everything was going smoothly. And then they had, they came to the Four Horsemen, and one of the tanks went rogue, it's fair to say, and blatantly, deliberately pulled their horseman over to stack on another horseman on a corner that they shouldn't have been in. It was very obvious it was deliberate. The streamer did this, the fucking lame thing where they're like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I made a mistake. But they intentionally wiped the raid, and people were left with, like I said, a very high profile wipe, and kind of the aftermath of that has been very, very interesting, and it's got a lot of people talking about what hardcore means to people. And we make the jokes about hardcore and softcore and everything, and we'll talk about it now. So maybe we'll come back to you, Entice, for a second when we talk about sort of maybe some of the reactions that you've seen through, or any messages you've gotten through Twitter on this one. But North, I'll throw it over to you for some commentary at the start of it. When I saw this thing, I'll just give you my take real quick, North. It was a bit of a complicated one for me because, look, hardcore has been like somewhat of a car crash in a way that, people do want to rubberneck a little bit. They've been watching all the high profile raids, kind of watching and wanting to see a wipe, as opposed to them just destroy the place and nothing goes wrong. So, that's the nature of the beast. We kind of focus on the negative. We not that we revel in people's failures, but we cheer the successes, but we kind of want something wild to happen. This was finally that moment. And I said in my Discord, look, I honestly think you can watch this thing and, number one, feel empathy for the people that lost their tunes. Now, I know there's been a development that they've said they're not going to delete their tunes. We'll get to that soon. But in the moment, the reaction was, well, I feel bad for them that they've lost their tunes and they're going to have to delete all their work. But then I also felt I would go very, very far from calling it, entertaining or full of, mirth or anything. But I've been trying to think of the word to use to, like, I saw the clip and sort of went, oh, no way. Oh my God. Like, I wouldn't say I reveled in it or that I was delighted by it, but there's a slight amount of like humor to it.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah. The Schadenfreude is there.
It's funny. It's
slightly funny.
Right?
So I say they're not mutually exclusive. You can feel both emotions in the moment. Do you agree, North?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you see someone, right? Like you see like, fucking like, what is it, back in like the early 2000s, all those like internet fails videos, and someone gets like, completely like covered in like mud, or like it's gonna be funny, and you're gonna feel bad because of how much of a bitch that's gonna be, right? It's gonna suck, and that sucked for them for sure, right? But it was kind of funny. Also, there's a lot of I've been in a couple streams just from here to there. There's been some good pastas, right? Like, like the tiniest violin, like the AV, like Chinese coffee pastas.
Yeah, I saw some good ones.
I've been doing some of my own pastas, mainly bind taunt. But I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed, because they could have saved themselves.
Well, they tried. Someone pulled it off, and he taunted it back.
They quote they tried. You need to have the fact that A, there was no backup plan for in the event that something like this happened. B, they had a known griefer on the one boss that can wipe you, like on the one horseman that will actually chain wipe the raid. C, that they didn't have another warrior, because you need two warriors, right? If that happens, if someone tries to taunt something off you, a warrior can keep it on, right? Two warriors fighting, one taunts, the other taunts back. Right, the other uses another taunt, he uses the other taunt back. When he uses the last AoE taunt, you AoE taunt back. So it will always go on the guys initially on. So you need two warriors to do it, right? The fact that only one warrior went out is what wiped them ultimately. They probably still would have wiped, but less people would have died had they, saved the pole with a tank. But they put a known griefer. Like, everyone was warning them. People were DMing these streamers to log out before the poll was even made. That it was going to get griefed, and everyone told them that this guy was a griefer, but they were like, oh, we want to give him a second chance, when he's a guy. Has videos of him literally sitting there and dispelling people in Oakhorn, being like, they hurt me and now I will dispel. Like, it's I mean, like, if you're gonna,
it's wild.
If you're gonna, like, are you, like, is that serious? Like, you're gonna put the griefer on Zeliak? Right?
Well, Hunk, let me throw it over to you, because this is the first tangent of many, I'm sure, with this topic, where we talk about, who is in your raid, and particular to hardcore, where you need to really trust these people. You know what I mean? This is the proverbial band of brothers and sisters where they've got to have each other's backs. No fuckwits allowed. You know, we're fucking, no one can make a mistake. No one can die. So initially after this happened, yes, the knee-jerk reaction was, how could you possibly let this person in? Now, we talk about things like, and I read some good posts on this, and I slightly agree. Well, I don't slightly agree. I do agree with the, like, look, let's say there's a world where this doesn't become a thing because they did know, but just hypothetically, let's say there's a world they didn't know who this guy was. You can't be expected to fucking know everyone that plays this game and vet and background. Like, what is a fucking background check in WoW? Like, fucking, come on. You know, mate, are you a fuckwit? No? Okay, you're good to go. You know what I mean?
For sure. Except for if these people are, like, notorious, like, multi-box griefers, right? And he's not even that notorious. This guy wasn't all that popular. Like, I'd seen clips of him before, but, like, I didn't know who he was. If someone said, oh, Tiny Violin, I wouldn't have known, oh, yeah, that guy. No, I wouldn't have done that. But people actively messaged the hardcore because people didn't want this to happen. He had hundreds of people watching his stream, and people, I'm assuming dozens, or at least a few, because there were more than a couple, at least a few people were DMing people in this guild, telling them exactly what was about to happen. And they were just like, oh, okay, that's fine. And is it not obvious that it's the person who literally is known for griefing on various methods of the game? He was griefing on Psalm, he was griefing on Classic. He had multiple characters. He had like 9 toolbox pre-setup just to dispel people's world buffs. Do we really think that kind of person who has these weird, like, villain monologues is not going to do this to you?
No, I see. I'm with you, because now we get to the like I said, that was a hypothetical that you didn't know him, but the fact was that they did know him. So we had all this information, and our own Tian SG from the Countdown community was one of the many people that messaged these raiders days in advance or something, or, you know, in advance of the raid, saying, fucking get him out of there. You don't know what you're getting into. He is a problem. So they knew, but like you say, they ultimately made the decision to, and Hunk, I'll throw it to you on this one. They ultimately made the decision. They said, look, okay. And this was part of their downfall, but they said, we know about his past behavior. We can see he's been a multi-boxing dispelling douchebag, but at the end of the day, he's played with us for a long time. He hasn't fucked us over up till now. He's been really good as a tank for us. He's, you know, done his part for the guild. We've been happy to give him a second go. Now, obviously, as I say, that was their folly because he ended up fucking them over. A small part of me, now I would have kicked him from the raid, don't get me wrong, but a small part of me, Hunk, understands if this guy has spent months befriending these people and they're like, oh, it's fucking, you know, Jimmy's all right. Maybe he's had some troubles in the past, but he's all good now. How do you feel about it?
It's almost like an EVE Online player, right? Like infiltrates the guild or infiltrates the corporation, spends a year building up trust to bring it down from the inside at just the right moment. But seriously, like, we played on Aragal. Shit did not follow people on Aragal. There were ninja looters, there were griefers, all across that server. They moved to other guilds. It never followed anyone. People would always say, oh, you know, your reputation is what matters in Classic. No, it fucking doesn't. It never did. People acted like idiots.
Except for when the reputation followed a very famously toxic guild called Grizzly and got them to lose their Scarab Lord. Right, when the dads of Sulphurus united together and in the moment of need,
and didn't the people enjoy seeing them fall from those heights?
Oh, they loved seeing that. They loved that their reputation followed them there.
The tall poppies.
Yeah.
So
I just on this the metaphor that I was talking with someone about this the other day. I was like, it's one thing if you know someone's like hit hard times and you know they've been fucked up, you know, they were douchebag in high school and you're like, Jimmy's cool now, you know, Jimmy's for the guild, you know what I'm saying? Jimmy wouldn't do that to us, except for Jimmy here in high school. What did he do? He incinerated wallets. Okay, he had a little incinerator in his backpack, and he would just take it out, and he would just incinerate people's wallets. And some people would be like, "Oh, hey Jimmy, can you hold my wallet?" Because people's wallets in this high school, they were very heavy, and so they often would ask Jimmy to hold them. And he kept incinerating wallets with his wallet incinerator. And then a couple of years later, you're walking around, you're with Jimmy, and you know about the backpack. You're aware of the fact that he's incinerated. He's still wearing the backpack, right? There's no reason for you to believe that he doesn't have the backpack. Backpack's on. No reason for you to believe the incinerator's not there. And Jimmy tells you, oh no, the incinerator's not my backpack. Mm-mm. Give me your wallet. Here, let me hold that for a second. I'll just let me just hold your wallet. No worries. I got. Oh, Zeliak. I got this. Don't worry about it. For sure. Everything will be all right. And then you're gonna Pikachu face when he incinerates your fucking wallet. Like that was his game the whole time. That was his gambit the entire time. And it's not even that he was planning this from the start. I don't think.
Oh, I don't think
he
so
just got
either.
bored.
And I'll throw it to Entice. Sorry, mate. I've been rude and say like, mate, don't feel like you can't jump in at any moment. If someone says something fucking stupid you disagree with, call them a cunt, call them out, jump in. Don't wait for me to call on you. But mate, I'll throw it to you now because I want to get you going on that point that North just raised. I 100% from the get-go after seeing this was of the belief I don't think this was like this evil, diabolical genius 12 months in the making with all the fucking, pins connected by threads back at his apartment for the last year and a half. I honestly believe this is something that he probably came up with about a week ago, if that, you know what I mean? Like more in the moment. What's your take on it?
Yeah, and I think I would agree with that. And one of the reasons why is similar to what North said. This guy has a somewhat a brief history of doing griefs or trolls, however you want to put it. North, you spoke around it a little bit earlier. He was dispelling people. I think he had 16 accounts.
It's 16.
Yeah, I remember the ban. It was a famous clip from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And he became so prolific at this that he was actually people were giving him real money for them not to, so he wouldn't dispel them. So he was getting money. People were paying him to not dispel them. So, and this is what inevitable. This is what he ended up getting banned for this. So that was that account. One of the 16 or whatever it was gone. But then he's kind of found his way back into. I think he come back in SOM and obviously hardcore now. But he's got a history, and the thing what he does is he kind of hides. He does these kind of acts, but hides it behind excuses. So he has mentioned previously the reason why he was doing all the dispels was because he didn't get Atiesh, or he was screwed out of Scarab Lord, something like that, and he hides behind these reasons, and that's why he does these acts, and he did it again with this one. I don't think that he was there. This was his end plan. From what I understand, he joined them in BWL. So from BWL all up until Nax, he's, gained what trust he could, trust enough to, tank one of the horsemen. And from what I understand, he was helping people outside the raid and things like that. So he definitely gets some sort of, trust from them. But again, he's now saying that he has reasons behind his actions. So now he's saying, a lot of the team are cheating. There's corruption within the guild in terms of like people, not the healing of their deaths and things like that. Now, everything that comes from this guy should be taken with a bag of salt. But it is worth mentioning that he's saying that he has some sort of reasoning behind this. And yeah, I agree. I 100% don't think this was 12 months in advance in terms of planning. But I do think maybe in the last, from what I understand, he actually had an interview with Stay Safe this morning. And in that, he said that, maybe in the last, couple of weeks, months or something, is when he's kind of come to that decision that what he's calling Judgment Day.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, he's
so
but in that interview, sorry, Entice, he didn't bring it back to any specific things, specific allegations.
He made a lot of allegations.
Stepped over loot for loot and things like that.
Yeah, he made a lot of allegations, but with no evidence whatsoever.
Right. Yeah.
And he kind of did that. Yeah, he does that a lot.
Well,
so he talks a lot.
I've got no doubt that it's like you're saying, Entice. I've got no doubt that he legitimately feels victimized by past discretions that people have, in his mind, like he's always getting fucked over by people in his mind. I've got no doubt that's the drive. That this wasn't just like, I'm going to be a fuckwit for no reason.
I
Go
think,
North.
My understanding is that because I have, you guys, what am I allowed to say on this?
Oh, here we go.
You can say anything. Come on. Don't be coy, baby.
someone who knows him better than most was speaking with him and was saying like he was saying that he really likes like waking up to like death threats and like waking up to people like actually like hating him as much as possible. He really enjoys that. And so that's like one of the, I don't know if it's like a main motivator, but it's like a principal motivator on all this. So like I don't know if anything that he's saying. I'm pretty sure that he was just bored.
That doesn't surprise me.
I'm 99% sure that he was just bored, and he was doing this because he thought it was fun. And then he was like, "Oh, well, yeah," because there are screenshots. Who knows if they're true or not of him being instructed by a particular man who will remain unnamed. It seems from the PMs that he's not even aware of the basic mechanics of Four Horsemen.
So he actually did speak on that.
The raid.
He did speak on that, and the individual that you're alluding to only had messaged him 5 minutes prior to the pull. So
that's the thing. He didn't. The individual didn't message him. He messaged the individual asking, right? Because he wasn't sure what to do. Is what happened in that situation. And so he solicited advice from that person because he didn't know what was going on, and that person essentially just gave them, according to the screenshot, basic information on how Four Horsemen functions. Because prior to that, my understanding, I was watching the stream while it happened.
Oh, I know who he was
just gonna leave the horseman in the middle. He had no clue where he was just gonna let Zeliak go through. And there's another tank that was gonna be on it, so the entire raid would have been fine. They would have had to adjust. Maybe would have died in like mark transitions, but he didn't understand how to wipe the raid.
And that's one thing with this, because he talks so much rubbish, like it's hard to know where the truth is, because he's basically come out this morning and said he had already decided this was going to happen, and then this individual had messaged him prior, so he had no factor.
Well, he wants the attention now, right? He got really mad when Stay Safe compared him. Stay Safe said, "Oh, well, TM, in the screenshot, TM's the mastermind."
Well,
right?
Yeah, North, I was going to say, like, I know who you're talking about.
That he was a plane hijacker, Tiny.
North, I know who you're talking about. Is there a reason we're not saying his name? Is he going to like send us death threats or something?
Oh no, I raid with him.
Oh, you raid with him? Oh, for fuck's sake!
I lead a guild with him.
I didn't know he was in your guild. I was like, why are we not saying the name? This is weird.
Well, you can say the name if you want. I don't know if the screenshots are true or not. I am under NDA, so I cannot comment on the veracity of those screenshots.
I reached out to him and asked him if because he was alluding that those screenshots are faked. Yeah, and I reached out to him and asked, and he never got back to me. So I don't know.
It's bullshit. I fucking hate that. So I'm like, oh, man, fucking, that's a fake screenshot. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. I realize things can be photoshopped, but I'm like, come on, dude, just fucking own
it. It looks sus. The screenshot does actually look sus. Like it looks like it's a lot to be typed in 1 minute. It's very grainy. It's got like a lot of like good formatting for no reason. Like there are reasons to believe that it could be
Here we go.
photoshopped.
The CIA were in on it in Dallas in '63.
I mean, what did the hardcore did they not? What did the hardcore community? Did the hardcore elite team think that there was not enough publicity? Did they plant Tiny Violin? He'd been raiding with him for months. This couldn't have been. They had to have known. The raid leader in the clip. You go look at the clip. The raid leader is talking about Death Wish while Zeliak is in the middle of his raid, about to wipe his entire raid. I mean, like, how hot does the temperature of Zeliak's beam even get? Is it enough to melt that many warriors at a time? It doesn't add up. It had to have been something else.
It's one of those things.
Calamity was in on it. It had to have been.
I mean, let's go down the fuck it. We're here. Let's go down the rabbit hole. Just a passing comment before we get to the whether or not Calamity was in on it. And Calamity's been on the show, but Calamity was on the show with you, I think, North. I can't remember. But it's funny with the T Muggsy thing. Fuck it, I'm gonna say his name. I don't see the problem with it.
Oh man, this is where Harry Potter rules.
I just I didn't think we were allowed to because it's based on what North was saying. But yeah, if
you're allowed to do whatever you want.
Well, just don't say it 3 times in a minute.
I would have 100% said the name, but yeah, cool.
But no, I mean, I was just going to say the funny part about the T Muggsy thing is like I saw the screenshots and everything, and I was just like that doesn't make me feel like anything strongly towards T Muggsy. Like if that was like, oh, they're like he taught him how to do it. Like I don't give a fuck. The guy still had to do it. But I'm also like, T Muggsy's one of those names where obviously you know him, North. I was laughing off as an aside, going like, it's one of those WoW classic names I've always known, and I'd be like, I don't know why.
He's an agent of chaos. That's
it's
why
not. Yeah, Anything associated with that name, it's never positive, I feel.
Right. Oh well. All right. Well, let's go.
He likes a good villain arc. He's a fan of a villain arc, right? He thinks that there should be heroes and villains in MMOs. I don't fully disagree with that. I like when there are villains in MMOs. I think within a certain boundary. I never would have done or endorsed the things that Tiny is doing here, but you can't lie. It's what makes Classic as interesting as it is, right? Like this is essentially the Red Ridge ganker here. Right, and everyone's banding together against them, and some people are like, no, he's doing the right thing, justice for the Horde. Like the Alliance have gone too far. Like they need to gank the Lopis and Red Ridge. Like it just causes the mayhem and the chaos, right? Like it's.
Oh, but my thing is like I'm more focused on the guy that pulled the trigger as opposed to the guy that was whispering sweet
nothings for sure. But the problem is if you look at it, it depends on who you believe, right? If you believe Tiny, it's like, okay, well, this was planned out. I already knew all of this, like the screenshot, it's not real. There's not, like I didn't need any of this advice, like none of this didn't matter. If you believe him, which, it's kind of sus believing him, but if you believe him, then, nothing is to do with this other person. And even if you don't believe him, if you think, okay, yeah, like he couldn't have done this without this other person, I agree with you. He still had to do it. He had to pull the trigger, The other person, Team Mugsy wasn't in there raiding for like the better part of like a year and then, wiping them on 4 horsemen.
Yeah, even if that's true, I still don't. Yeah, it doesn't minimize Tiny's actions whatsoever or the blame or anything like that. I still think it falls 100%.
It's also to someone else, right? Like if someone were to PM me about that, and it's like I'm sitting there like watching a stream late at night, and I'm like, would it be funny for this to happen? Am I about to facilitate this? I wouldn't do it, but like I have like a very strict like video game moral structure, right? Like I have an extremely strict structure on that. Most people don't. Most people don't care. Like most people be like, oh yeah, that'd be funny. Oh yeah, okay, cool, right? Like
all right, that'll be hilarious. Imagine all of what's your line, mate? What's your line that you don't cross? The ethical line.
I think pain for pain's sake. I think grief for grief's sake. I think when it doesn't have a real incentive, I think it's bad. So, for instance, if he were trying to popularize hardcore as a result of this, if he were trying to like cause drama, even that for me is potentially good enough reason. I don't think he was doing it though. I think trying to cause pain and inconvenience to other players for no other reason to cause inconvenience, that is the line for me. In MMOs generally, right? So it's the Red Ridge ganker. You're not. In reality, there's no counterplay possible. It's even the Red Ridge ganker is not as bad as the Dispeller, because the Dispeller there's no counterplay because realistically they're dead, right? You can't prevent the res. There's no in-game mechanic to prevent the res. So that's the line. But I think systems are also a big part of that, because you could just, if the death system in WoW, if the running back system weren't as bad as it were, you'd have a lot less cringe interactions like that. So I think that's actually a system failure.
Let me ask you this. We'll keep the ball rolling on, now we're going down the full fucking Zapruder tape, JFK conspiracy hole. Let's fucking open it all up. North mentioned Calamity's name. And as I said, Calamity's been on the show. Calamity was great with me. The word is already spreading about, ooh, do you think there were other people in on it? Oh, Calamity didn't sound that upset. Maybe they were in on it. How far are we going with this? What's your take?
Yeah, I think this is a one-man show, if I'm being honest. From what I understand, he did reach out to a few of the people within the raid and just said, hey, FYI, shit's about to go down. Just be ready. I get the sense from Calamity's point of view that she had an inkling that something was happening, because I feel like at the end there's a moment in the clip where she says, well, there's the grief. So I don't know if that's because she had an inkling it was going to happen, or just an inkling because of the individual who was in the raid, and it was kind of inevitable that he was going to pull something like this anyway. So I still think, I don't think anyone else is in on it at all. I think it would be kind of crazy to want to do this as a team effort, whereas, it kind of fits the bill when it comes to Tiny Violin with his history and everything like that.
I agree. North, we'll throw it to you then, Hunk. Look, like I said, people are sort of saying, and it gets silly in my mind, where people are like analyzing the audio and just going, that reaction, that's a bit dulled for my liking. Clearly something fishy going on. I actually don't think there was anything that bizarre with the audio, where a couple of people, like Entice said, goes, oh, there's the grief. Oh, here we go. All right. The fact that they weren't freaking and yelling like the house was on fire doesn't faze me. It really does.
It would have made the clip better. That's what I'm most bothered by. That is, my entertainment was affected by their lack of affect. That disturbs me fundamentally.
Right,
really.
that they were relatively cool, calm, and collected in the clip. I agree. It brings me back to
the aftermath. I actually like in the aftermath that they were so chill about it. I like that. Yeah. But in the moment, you gotta feel what you're feeling, because they're right now at the end they're trying to give him the satisfaction. I get that. I'm here for that. I understand that. I agree with it, right? Like giving him further attention. But like when you're in the thick of it, when you were in the trenches, right? A grenade has just been thrown, right? You got, someone's got to scream that someone's got to, jump on the grenade. And ultimately, I think what this speaks to is the fact that all those warriors were like, no. I think either they're so engrossed in what they're doing. Obviously, he picked a good time because they were just death wishing, right? So they're just popping their cooldowns. They're focused on pumping. They have to pump, right? But maybe part of the problem is that none of them wanted to be the ones that jump on the grenade, because you go and taunt that boss, the odds that you die are they're extraordinarily high. Whereas if you don't taunt the boss, if you die, probably everyone dies. So like you're kind of going down with the team. And Bean was talking about that after the stream. He was like, "Well, I'm glad that everyone died. I'm glad that it wasn't just me. Like I would have been way more sad if it been just me." And I think a lot of people kind of had that mindset where they weren't willing to step up either. And also, clearly it's just kind of like a bad raid, right? Because you're not looking at what's happening with Zeliak. You like see it too, like the tank calls it, and then it's like, oh, get Zeliak out of here. Not every warrior get the fuck out of my thing. Like get it now. Like it needs to be, like if it's not taunted now, we're wiped, right? Like they clearly don't. They went through a 30-minute explanation of Horseman and they don't understand. That seems weird. That's the only thing that seems weird to me, is that they identify that Zeliak is in the raid, and they're like, yeah, okay, all right.
There's so many different angles on this I want to hit on, and sorry, we're probably going to go a little bit longer on this one. Just before we do, Hunk, I'll throw it to you because I'll go off on this tangent just for now, but this is one that you'll be able to talk on, because I'm picturing, Hunk, that I don't even know if you've seen the clip. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen the stream one that gets cut off pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay. Look, one comment that I hope I'm reasonably proud of myself for raising for the first time, because I've read all the fucking Reddit comments and nobody's raised this once. Haven't seen it on Entice's Twitter feed or fucking anything. The parallels between this and the fucking Winter Spring funeral are massive in my mind, as we talk about with the Schadenfreude, with the really polar opposites that people land on how they feel about the incident after watching it. Because obviously we had the funeral back in the day where there was no in between. It was one or two things. You were either generally pretty upset by it, thinking that was fucked up by the guild that came and massacred everyone, or you thought it was fucking hilarious and it's World of Warcraft, it's a PvP server. What did you fucking expect? Yeah. I really find like we just transplant that argument to this thing today with hardcore going like, well, it's a hardcore raid. We've been talking for fucking 6 months while this thing has been super popular that this was going to happen. What did you expect? But then also the amount of people that, are very, very sad for the people that lost their characters, and also the people that find it fucking hilarious. My long question, Hunk, is do you think that's a fair parallel to draw? And do you think there are any like massive differences or similarities in your own mind between those two events?
Yeah, like I can see how people are drawing the similarities, but again, it all comes down to
people, me.
Beg your pardon, sorry.
You said people. I said it's just me. Nobody else is talking about this because I'm
a
smarty.
I can see how you're drawing the similarities.
It's just him. He's special with it. You gotta give credit where credit's due.
Okay, and thank you for drawing that dotted line that nobody else could see.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But I think, like, again, it all comes down to, like, what harm was done, right? Like a bunch of people wiping a hardcore guild and everyone laughs. Even I had that initial reaction of more like amazement, which turned into like kind of mirth, before I considered like the people behind the screen and how upset they must have been. But the funeral thing, I feel like, was quite a bit more severe. And like to say, like, yeah, what did you expect? I mean, sure, that's a fine way to look at it. But I think that as is different, whether or not it should have been expected, is different from like the reaction. So I don't think they're necessarily that close together. While they're on the same spectrum, certainly like griefing the funeral for someone who's died is way worse.
Wasn't the person who died, forgive me for interrupting, wasn't the person who died, wasn't he like an avid PvPer?
I don't know.
My understanding is that he was.
Are you saying that he might have liked that to happen at his funeral? Is that where we're going with this?
I think the guild have. I mean, we would never be talking about that event had they not griefed it realistically. And the same thing is true for this event, right?
He's immortal because of it, right?
He is immortalized. We know about that. I'll never not know about that. You know, like I'll remember that until the day that I'm on my fucking deathbed. And I hope after I die, bro, a bunch of people, while I'm uploaded to fucking Sword Art Online, a bunch of people go grief my funeral. That's just hilarious.
I'll agree for your funeral, North, I promise.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
In game or not. But can I just circle back to what we were saying about the the idea that like Calamity might have had some involvement in this. Just to comment on that, I just this idea that there's like some game of like 16D space chess happening.
I know.
Yeah. And it seems a bit ridiculous to me. And like the idea that like, I remember that in the clip, oh, well, there's the grief. I mean, I've watched a lot of ninja looting videos over the years, and that's a common way people react is like that, like they're shocked, but they, like that protection instinct. They're like, oh, of course, the ninja looter. When they get that first kill, like it's a really common reaction. I wouldn't read into that personally. I really think it's just a lone wolf.
I think you're right.
A bad actor.
On the sort of the reaction, like back to sort of the how you take in the funeral or how you take in this one. And no, you're right, North. Look, my understanding is, I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl that passed away from the guild, but whoever passed away, I do remember that years and years later, maybe like right around the time of the Classic announcement or something, someone came out from that guild and said, yeah, look, they were probably would have gotten a kick out of it because they were a massive PvPer. So yeah, I do recall seeing something like that. But look,
even if it isn't true, I kind of want to choose to believe that, right? Yeah. Like you kind of want to. You kind of want to have the silver lining in this. I think that is way more. I think that's way less heinous what they did there, because that was a bit of fun. Like you weren't. Yes, it was. It was like a weird statement, and it like confused those people in their grief, just getting spammed like ganked. Like it's a very confusing and weird time, and it's like hard to process. But it's not just like you're not ripping something from someone. You're making it difficult maybe to process some grief, but you're not. Robbing them of thousands of hours of gameplay. That's a bit aggressive. Ultimately that, this feels worse because it's not like a bunch of people just having a bunch of fun together at this guy's, like at the other guild's expense. It's one person. If you believe that it's one person, right, trying to do this at everyone else's expense. I think the one compelling argument for it being an inside job is just just kind of generating hype over it, and I'm like trying to be like, oh, KT's still unkilled. I think because they were kind of, had this not happened, I think they go and I think they kill KT. But now they're appealing their characters, so I think that any amount of they're just doing this to keep it unkilled and to keep the hype high. Yeah. I think that could have been the case if they didn't try and then go to immediately appeal, because they're going to get lambasted for appealing unless they want the drama surrounding that as well, which I doubt they would. I think that inside job is a bit
just one sec before you jump in, Hunk. On that point, North, you know who the biggest fucking winner inadvertently, this is like the Grimace Shake thing, you know who the biggest winner inadvertently out of all this is? Fucking Blizzard, because HC servers are just around the corner and now they've got all this free hype.
Oh, they got great marketing. What were you saying, Hunk?
Would you describe this as a false flag operation?
Oh my god.
I don't know that the flag is false, but the flag is suspicious. The flag is sus. Because if you were going to pick, right, just think about it. Think about incentives. Think about setups. If you were going to pick a fall guy in your raid, who better?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Who better than a willing volunteer?
Who better than a willing volunteer that wants to be the villain? He likes to be the villain. We have documented proof that. I mean, our Twitter lad over here, he knows. He's seen that clip from him where he's like, he's wronged me. He took my Atiyat, which is like a weird thing. No one could take an Atiyat from you. They can take a bug mount from you. That can happen, but no one can take an anti-edge from you. You just got loot canceled, bro. Right?
Yeah.
Like he's you know, he's you know, he likes being the villain, right? I feel like that's a fair characterization.
So
yeah, and I think he's
sorry,
definitely getting a kick out of all this. To be honest, I mean, he's
also
I mean, he always streamed,
subs.
but he's streaming a lot more now at the moment. And it's hard because, you know, everyone's giving him a platform right now. Even us talking about it now, he's probably going to get a kick out of it, right? So it's a hard one to discuss because at the end of the day, you don't want to, you know, give too much cadence to someone who does that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. We'll come. There's still a couple more points I want to cover off before we move on. I know it's a fucking long one, but his streaming and the subs and everything, I'll come back to that one. Don't let me forget. But North, you know, on that point that I was making earlier, it's, you know, and our boy Tim is in chat, and I'm glad he's here and he's listening to this one, because I was just going to say, you know, when I alluded to the Grimace Shake thing before, I was reading this phenomenal thread on Twitter the other day from a McDonald's marketing executive who was talking about how the Grimace Shake trend, I presume, because we're all, you know, 21-year-old fucking, you know, TikTok users in this chat, we all know exactly what I'm talking about.
I use TikTok.
I say Grimace Shake.
What is the Grimace Shake? And
Jeez, old man.
Do you want me to explain it? Do you want me to explain it?
Can you turn your camera on and do it for me? I assume there's a dance involved.
No, there's no dance. Literally, it's like a bit. It's just a TikTok meme, right? Like, you know, TikTok has, you know, like little video trends. And so this trend was people would be like, oh yeah, here I'm trying the Grimace Shake, because McDonald's had like a weird purple milkshake for like one of their characters' birthday, which they rarely do. It seemed very out, you know, it seemed very out of character for them. Anyway, they did that. They released a purple milkshake, and they were like, yeah, you know, like I'm gonna have this milkshake, you know, like we're just gonna try it, see. And they're like, okay, it's pretty good. And then they just like cut to them being like dying somewhere, being clearly like having been beaten up and like
with the shake spilling like a
that's kind of funny. I like that.
It is funny. It's
so
really
the best
funny.
one was the girl that did the shake coming out of her nose immediately after drinking it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason I make this point is this marketing executive did this really excellent thread on the way in which, like, you know, fucking AAA marketing works with social media trends these days. And, you know, he was talking about the conspiracy that McDonald's was in on it. And, McDonald's started this. This is some weird, brilliant viral marketing scheme, you know, brewed in a fucking office somewhere. And he came out and said, mate, I fucking wish I could say that we were that smart, but this is just funny Gen Z doing their thing. And look, if I'm being honest with you, it was 80% amazing content creators driving these trends and 20% of us eventually deciding to get involved and lightly prodding and pushing along the way as best we could to help it grow. And I really enjoyed sort of the frankness that he talked about it. And I was kind of like, you know, again, going back to this one with Blizzard being like, look, and Tim, this is where I sort of say, listen up. And this is obviously not a shot at you or the classic team, but I've been critical of Blizzard in the past for some time now over the marriage between the marketing or social media postings, specifically involving the classic community, that you guys have tended to not really want to or not really being able to jump in on the fun with us. You kind of like, this is the perfect moment. This is like fucking, you know, this really is the perfect storm for your hardcore servers, where if you had, I don't want to get personal, I'm trying to word this very delicately. If you had a social media team that was like, oh, baby, here we go, fucking here are going to be some smart or funny tweets, or we'll do something fun with this one. You know, that's how you weave in maybe that little bit of extra hype towards hardcore. And it's just around the corner. Don't be the fifth horseman, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, traditionally we haven't gotten that kind of thing, which has always saddened me to a certain extent. But, you know, I'm in on it, like North said, had this crew, this raiding crew, not now decided to res their characters, ignore the grief, carry on, I agree, North, there would have been some, I wouldn't have necessarily all the way bought in, but there would have been some meat on the bones on, you know, was this a thing to hype the official servers? Not by Blizzard, but by the hardcore players, you know? So yeah, that's my rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Did you like that one, Mark?
Is
Was that a
there
good
question?
TED Talk?
No.
Was there? No, there's no question. I just wanted to yell at you guys for a while.
I mean, I think it's a really good point, specifically when you talk about Blizzard's End in terms of hyping it all up. I know they've actually made quite a different strategic change when it comes to their Twitter, but it's always dedicated towards retail. So in terms of Classic, they've never done, they haven't really done anything, unfortunately. And I think that's kind of it's kind of just Classic as it is now. It's just set and forget, it seems. So when I'm very surprised we're even getting hardcore servers, but based on what you're saying, I 100% agree. The counter to that is, and I'm not in enough other communities to really buy into what I'm about to say, but it feels as if Blizzard are damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they were to jump on this, people would be saying, oh, look how insensitive you are. There's people that have got, X amount of hours dedicated into it, and you've just let some troll, you're trying to benefit from some troll that, completely disregarded these players' efforts. So it would be really hard to sell that, but I do think it would be a very, very good idea. Absolutely.
No, that's a really good point, mate, because the content creators in the super secret fucking, you're in it, mate. The super secret content fucking wankfest creator Discord that I always fucking mention on this show. Because Entice and I are the biggest wankers here on this podcast because we're in there. We're in this Discord. We know it. But look, the creators have been kind of pushing hard for this cunt to get banned.
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this Discord or whatever, but I'm not a fan of.
We're not supposed to, but I don't give a fuck. So I mean, blame it on me.
And if I'm being honest, it looks as if Blizzard are kind of leaning towards that line of thinking, from what I've seen.
You reckon they are?
If you have a look, yeah.
Oh, has there been something today? I'll have to have a check, yeah.
Not so much today, but in the last couple of days, they've kind of asked a little bit, additional information, so to speak.
Oh, right. Go north.
Why is it that there are super secret Classic fucking content creator Discords, and I get it, and then they change? Why is it that they have to change?
What do you mean?
Because it's not the Nexus one, is it?
No. I'm talking about the official one. The Nexus one is the unofficial one.
Cringe.
So I'm North, you're in the unofficial one, which doesn't get as much chatter anymore. This is the official one that I'm talking about.
I'm pissed. There's an official one. I'm applying. Give me the link.
Mate, there's multiple clubs. We bar hop, fucking get with it now.
I need more invites, bro.
To be honest, it's not like they don't really. It feels like sometimes a lot of it goes unread. Put it that way.
I want to look and laugh at the people complaining
Didn't I
and
get you a
appealing for
fucking
their
invite
deaths.
to the official
50
one?
million hours in.
Anyway, hey, listen,
I
Alenia said this. I really need to throw this in. Thanks, Alenia, for letting us know. Alenia is saying, look, clarification, Josh, only 6 of the raiders have elected to res their tunes. All the others have deleted, which is great to hear. Well, I mean, it's good to know. Thank you for the clarification. Otherwise, I would have just presumed.
Is that great to hear? Is that
that's
the choice
a
of words?
horrible choice of words. You fucking know what I mean. It's good to get the clarification because I would have just presumed that all of them were going to go again in that.
No, some actually deleted that night.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and I think it's it's a hard one because at the end of the day they did die regardless of griefing. So I feel like it comes down to how you feel about the situation. And there's some that they really do or die when it comes to death equals delete rather than death equals appeal.
Oh, but the appeals were specifically disallowed in all rating environments, right? Like that was a hard and fast rule: is that appeals were not allowed.
It was changed.
Right?
All right, I'm just.
It was, and then it changed for once this happened.
Well, for sure, a retroactive change is cringe, right?
It's so hard to have like a really genuine opinion on it, just because I don't want to disregard people, because I know there's people who are very upset.
Yeah.
There's people that were like crying that their death their tune died because of this griefer.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be insensitive at it, but I'm very much a purist in the sense that if you die, you get deleted. Like I've had tunes that have died in their, it's not like Nax rating, but I've had tunes die in their 50s. I never thought to appeal, and some of them are dying to people chain pulling NPCs. Like it is what it is.
Hey,
I don't think I don't
sorry,
think it's
go on.
insensitive to say that that's a right, because legit it just looks bad. I think for everyone, even if they continue, it does suck, right? You can feel bad for them and at the same time be like, this would be kind of shitty if it was like it was an it wasn't like the server went down. If it was like the server went down, sure, great. You had literally no way of interacting with it. There was a check. Your raid faced someone trying to wipe you on the one boss where you need to be most prepared. You were not prepared for this to happen, and your raid died because of it.
And
Right?
there is a part of me in the sense that, roster management, and that's, I mean, you mentioned before, Josh, you can't really vet people. What does that even look like? But to me, there is a certain aspect that the roster management is part of the game. And if you were to surround yourself with people who have a long history of griefing and things like that, and you were to get griefed, like, there's a part of me that is just sorry, but sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, sorry guys, I've just invited someone from the crowd to chat with us. Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, sorry, I was trying to desperately click on your profile. It's just coming up as R. I'm not sure.
That's weird.
What was your profile name?
Renegade Bliss.
Renegade Bliss. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry. That's very rude of me to not know that. Mate, have you heard something that made you want to chime in?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the whole appeal thing. So I've been a little, I guess, flabbergasted on people's takes on it because for the current hardcore, like the non-official servers, the idea of the rules they get on appeal is if you die to something that is clearly out of your control, like, some sort of griefing, you de-seed, maybe like just something like a weird bug, just something that you can't counterplay. It seems to be fair game to appeal those deaths, and that has been the rule for the non-official servers, and that changes for the official servers. And what I don't get is the pitchforks that people are getting up in this, because they are appealing their deaths over obvious griefing, and there are the arguments that make sense that, yeah, they should have seen this coming. Yeah, this dude's a known griefer, but at the end of the day, like, I just find it a little hard. Like, a lot of people pitch it to, I guess, Discord mod corruption. And these are unfair appeals, and I'm just trying to understand that.
I know exactly what you're saying. Let me be the first to answer, and anyone else can piggyback off the back of this. Mate, I'm glad you said that, because I initially had the exact same reaction. As soon as I saw this, I actually didn't have too much of an outward visceral reaction to it, because in the back of my head, I'm like, I know there is a rule that says if you're griefed, you can just res your character. So this was all for nothing. But I was a little bit shocked to start seeing how much, how much chatter this thing was building. And as you say, the vitriol and the anger that started spilling out from it, where I was like, hang on. I'm pretty sure that for the longest time, people have been dying to Teramis, and you just get to show them the clip and then they let you res again. And nobody gives a fuck. It's an appeal that you just go, yeah, I was griefed, or whatever. You get to keep going. The thing is, whilst you and I know that, the thing that bugs, and there's a section of the classic player base, whether or not they're actually hardcore players, there is a section of the classic player base that, really truly is passionate about if you die, you die. And they don't like any of the exceptions to the rule that the add-on via the Bloodsail Buccaneers community has implemented. They don't like the fact that if you die on a flight path, you can go again. And this was all, they had the rules, you had to be over level 20 or whatever to send through your appeal or whatever. If you de-seed in the water, you could res again. If you died on a flight path, you could res again. If you died to obvious griefing, you could res again. The whole point of their challenge was not to be you versus the computer. Sorry, you versus the network connection, or you versus the griefer. It's supposed to be you versus the game, and that was the whole principle of the thing. So I fucking am 100% with you. I'm not shocked by the outrage, but I'm a little surprised it's gathered as much steam as it has, because this has always been a thing that they were well within their rights to just res again. Anyone else on that?
Except they weren't, right?
There was
a specific rule that there were to be no appeals in raids.
In
No
raids.
appeals.
Specifically
No
raids.
appeals could stand. There was a hard rule. No
Yeah.
appeals in raids.
Oh, so this
Absolutely
is only through
none.
leveling.
And that's keeping in mind the fact that they right, people said from the beginning, oh, what if someone griefs you, right? Like you had you could have Baron Geddon bombs go in. Right, you could have a lot of things that they could choose to try and blow you up.
So the rule.
I opened
so the
my
rule
Twitter,
I'm
by the way. I
referring
opened
to,
my
North,
Twitter, and you were the first person on my Twitter, by the way.
Sorry, so
Popping
North,
off.
the rule I'm referring to was just for leveling.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're
I
right
did
for
not know
leveling,
that.
but in
Okay,
this
sorry,
instance,
my
being
bad.
raid, there was a hard rule.
No, then I understand now.
I
That's
was
my
unaware of
understanding.
that.
I'm not familiar with it. That's my understanding of why people are angry, and
This is why there's so much outrage because they've gone back now and changed the rule, and then that's why
the people appealing are the people who write the rules. So they're literally they changed the rule that they can now appeal it, and that are appealing like that. That looks terrible, right? Like that is some Discord mod shit. That literally is some Discord mod shit where it's like, I'm gonna put a little badge that says I can appeal. Actually, like
But
and look, it might be worthy. It might be that what they're doing is the right thing to do. It just the context of it all, of them being mods as well, or the rule makers, whatever word you want to use, it does look a bit sus.
Yeah. Hunk, you're in charge. I'm getting another beer.
Okay, so but according to Elenia in chat, right, it's that rule didn't include griefing.
Well, what they've said is, and this is purely from a Calamity clip, so I could be completely wrong, but from my understanding, is there was no hard rule. There was a hard rule that there was no appealing in raids, and then she prefaced it by saying because we didn't think people would grief. That's fine, but the thing is to retroactively change those rules. That's where the issue is. If you went going forward, fair enough. I think a lot of the community would just be, okay, fair enough. Like, this is what's happened. You can actually link to the reasoning why of the rule change, but to retroactively change the rule, I think that's where the concern is for the majority of the community.
But do you consider it a retroactive rule change or like an evolving set of rules? I mean, this is a very new space for like our community. These rule sets are evolving over time when new situations come up. And I think like this situation, it's not even a case of like hardcore admins like weighing in one way or another. Really, it's almost like a trial by community. Like I see this whole situation as kind of working as intended, right? Like the guild is trying to show that like its process, like there's integrity within our guild and within our process for like appealing, this rule. And then the community decides whether or not there is integrity in the process. And I think like at the moment, it's very split. More split than I thought it would be. I actually thought, people would be more like willing to accept the explanations from the guild or just because of the griefing. But you don't think it's okay to like evolve the rule set over time?
I 100% think that it's good. I think they should. I think the issue is that they've changed it. Like it's happened, right? If they were to future change the rule, if they're going forward, fair enough. I think majority of people are like, yeah, that makes sense. Well, that was a real oversight. Why did they even make that rule, right? But I think everyone would prove pretty accepting of the fact of going forward. If you are griefed, you could appeal, but it's the fact that they're going back and basically reversing it.
North, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to pit you against, because I think you sound like you're on opposite sides of the field to our, I don't think he likes it when I mention him in the podcast. So I'll say, our mutual friend, God, if you look in YouTube chat, you'll know who I'm talking about, North. They are of the opinion that, and I'm not sure if you're too young for this reference, North, but they've invoked a Whose Line Is It Anyway reference and said, look, who cares? Everything's made up and the points don't matter. They can do what they want. They make their own rules when they've hit 60. It's their own guilds. It's their own hardcore challenge.
Oh, for sure. But then, right, they can. 100% they can. It's their own challenge. They can do it. They can retroactively do it. Right. But when there's a certain amount of like finality to it and the integrity is essential in it, if you want to be like, no, this is serious. We're gonna keep ourselves to these standards. Death equals delete. It's not death equals squiggly line delete. It's death equals delete, right? So there is sort of a finality to it. There is sort of a a sort of integrity to it. It's like, nah, we're hard and fast. That's how I interpret it anyway. I'm not a pillar of the hardcore community. My word means next to nothing, right? He's right. The rules are made up. Points don't matter. They can do it. But I also think it's not really romantic, right? It on some level, if they were actually griefed in a way that they could not avoid, if this person had technology that were right, like if he were to throw it in and then like find a way to hard taunt Zeliak to follow the raid around and kill them, and there was nothing they could have done, I agree. You can't let him win then. He's just exploiting. He's fucking it up. They fucked up their raid, right? Yeah. 23 people didn't press the taunt button, right? Like, you have that button on your fucking bar. 23 people just decided not to press it and press Deathswith. The raid leader who saw Zeliak, right, just said nothing. He like said, get that out of here. And then he said nothing else while it was being dragged back into his raid, right? No backup plan was made. They made an error. Obviously, they probably wouldn't have died. They came prepared, not prepared enough. And yeah, there was some intra-faction PvP there. But I'm a big fan of intra-faction PvP. I think that if I'm on a girl and some little night elf hunter shitbag is attacking my mob and tagging my Devilsaur, I should be able to fucking throw off the mask and murder him. So, you know, I'm not really, right? Like, you got to know whose side you're on, right? Realistically.
Very good. Guys,
and this guy clearly wasn't on their side, and they did not put their most trusted person. Why did they put their most trusted person on it? Because, you know, maybe their roster's thin, it's a bit difficult. But no, they're saying this guy was like a real asset to them, and so they put him on the thing because they were like, yeah, it's good. They made a bad call. Roster boss exists. Don't put the psycho who has videos of him like giggling like psychotically about how he's gonna wrong the people who wronged him, and then not give him a ton of loot in your guild, and then put him on Zeliak. That seemed to be right. Like, you know, games made up. You know, they play for their own points. Sure, you also set up your own fucking house of cards as it falls down when you put the actual psycho on the one horseman that can murder you.
Well said, guys. Right? I promise we're going to move on. This has just been a really fun one to talk about. Real quick, look, we've got an odd number of people here. We can do the old like hunk reference, the old fucking the court of the community or whatever. You know, let's make a judgment here. Look, we sort of mentioned it before. I said the community the content creator Discord, was sort of calling for this guy to be banned. Here's my hottest take. I think this guy is a fucking piece of shit, but I don't think he should be banned. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts real quick. North, thumbs up or thumbs down from the Emperor?
Should he be banned? Can you come back to me on that one? I don't know.
Have a think. Renegade?
I haven't considered it.
Huh? What do you mean by a gang ban?
So do you think he should have his account permanently closed down, or maybe a 6-month ban?
I'm in favor of that, yes. Okay,
that's a thumbs down from Renegade. Hunk?
Look, I play a lot of hardcore PoE. I've always been in the camp that, you know, and I'm hoping that the official servers will be like that. That if you die, it's game over. And for this guy getting banned, no, I don't think he should be banned.
All right.
I don't think you should be banned for just being a fuckwit.
Okay, that's 2-1. Entice, you've got the sideways thumb. Your hand might be quivering. Is it going up or down?
Going up in terms of agreeing with you, absolutely. I feel like it's too much of a slippery slope to be banning someone for something like this. If it was up to me, I think we should all just, trial by community, right? So he's now got a name for himself. People aren't going to want to play with this guy. I'm sure there'll be a select few, but majority of people don't want to play with this guy. Let the community deal with it.
All right, 3-1. The nays have it. North, you can give your moot opinion now anyway.
Yeah, yes, I think he probably should be banned. I think that given it wasn't, and you know the reason why it wasn't interesting enough. It didn't. There was no real reason. I'm pretty sure he was just bored, and he just wanted other people to like feel pain. And I feel like Blizzard should be like, okay, people who are bored and want other people to regardless of the fallout that occurs after, right? Like, and the amount of other things that go with it, the amount of cool stuff, the amount of conversations, the amount of hype that surrounds it. Should you allow someone who's sold? Right, I think the people who are doing the dispel stuff, I think he should have been banned then. People multi-boxing on 16 dispellers and just sitting there, they should be banned. So I think he should have been permanent forever ago, to be honest.
Well, look, guys, we'll move on. And I mean, my thing was, like I said, I even though I don't think he should be banned, I am very, very strongly of the opinion that this guy is a fuckwit of the highest order. And I'm still like, look, it's one thing to find it funny, but if you were moved, if you were moved to the point of hilarity that you threw this guy a sub for this, fucking take a look in the mirror, sunshine. Like, this is a great divide between the difference of WoW players that we have. That you've got the tiny violin and the tiny violin lovers of the world, and then you've got everyone else. Anyway, we'll fuck it. Does anyone have any final words on this before we go to the PvP stuff?
I feel like, and this is coming from like, I just feel like I find tiny violin the whole situation. I think it's hilarious. Like, it's pretty funny and it's great content to see all this happen. It's awful. It's like the train wreck you all were talking about earlier, as in people tune into these streams for train wreck, and it gives some great content. It's a good laugh, but I feel like when it comes to something like hardcore, like the world buff griefing, whatever, like you don't have your Ani buff for Nax this week. Like, it's frustrating. It's not the end of the world. But I feel like when you go into griefing into the territory that you are erasing collectively thousands of hours of people's time and actively just breaking people down to tears over their lost characters, I feel like when you're going to that scope of griefing, because this isn't just like, oh, I said a mean thing to you because you're bad at game, oh, like I'm gonna ninja your loot, like this is a pretty bigger scale from any other griefing we could have in WoW, and I feel like when you're getting to that kind of scope, we should be looking at bans.
I think the one difference between that and this, like, I'd honestly say for the situation, I don't think he should be banned. I literally only think he should be banned because of the dispelling stuff. And the reason I think that is because there is no actual counterplay to dispelling that does not fundamentally disrupt the game. Whereas there is counterplay to this that doesn't fundamentally disrupt the game, right? You're always going to have to deal with people doing stupid shit in your raids, like even if it's not intentional, right? Like should someone be banned if they fuck it up? Obviously not, right? Obviously this guy is weird and grief and crazy, but right, there was no counterplay, and people made cities unlivable. They made it so that you had to, this kind of person, this guy, he made it so that you had to summon yourself around, that the seamlessness of the world and the continuity of the world was fundamentally disrupted because he could do it, right? And he's abusing the system so heavily, right? And obviously the devs aren't going to like opt for a complete redesign on like the death runback mechanic in the middle of a game being out, because it's just the way that it worked in World of Warcraft at that time. Hopefully, I don't know if there are any developers around. I don't know what their names would or wouldn't be, but if there are any developers, a fundamental redesign on the death system would be great. I know you'll never do it, but a fundamental redesign on the death system, you shouldn't run back. Running back is cringe and bad. Anyway, yeah, but like that, there is no counterplay. I think that's the difference for me. That's the reason why there was counterplay here. He really shouldn't be banned. It's not like he actually robbed them of this. He threw a wrench, right? He threw a wrench into the raid.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, right?
For sure. And that entire raid, their feet were slow. Their Nikes were not on, right? And they died for it. And obviously I feel bad, and I'm not like sitting here and be like, this is a good thing. Fuck them. Like I hate them and they deserve to. No, but there was counterplay. You could have played better, right? It sucks. You could have played better. You could have roster boss better. It sucks. Fuck him. Move on, I think.
Hunk, did you hear him just like play with the straightest of bats, my dodgeball reference?
I was surprised, no acknowledgement. Yeah.
What do you mean? You want to keep like I don't know the further line. You can dodge a res, you can dodge a bullet. Does he have the bullet at that
Quote
point?
the whole fucking movie.
Good movie, but I was like 7.
Is it a good movie though? Does it hold up?
God.
I don't know if it holds up because I was 7 when I watched it. My brother in Christ.
I didn't like it when it came out. It grew on me over time. But anyway, guys, look, like North has said, it's funny, North, because I was laughing that I'll throw T Muggsy under the bus and get his name out there, but now we're not naming the devs. But look, there are assorted Blizzard staff listening in, and it's a good time to discuss the PvP changes that have come our way in the last 24 hours. Just to give you guys a bit of an intro, look, I have to apologize to our dear friend Magan the Shaman, who's listening in live as well, who has just been all over this fucking thing like a pig on shit. He has been, just waiting and waiting so patiently for this news. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I'm like, this whole time I was just like, I mean, they're just going to give us a fucking currency system and whatever. Like, it's, whatever. But look, it's not that. It's an announcement was made yesterday that moving forward in Classic era, and presumably this is the system that's coming in now because it's going to be attached to Season of Mastery 2 or, vanilla plus or minus or divided or multiplied, whatever the fuck we're getting next. The Classic era basically needed a change. And this, it's funny because I said it really is the funeral again for the old school ranking system that now you will only basically find on private servers from now on. If that's your fucking thing, if you really got to rank the old way, you can't do it on any official servers anymore. So everything's been overhauled. But it's probably, when you tear through that very, very long post, which half of it was just explaining what the PvP system is, you understand that there's basically sort of about 3 key things that have really happened now. I'm going to butcher this, but I'll try my best. North, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Look, basically decay, for lack of a better term, has been nerfed. Decay is still a thing. I was expecting them to get rid of decay, but I'm more, and I said to this to my Discord,
it's brilliant what they did with decay. It's so smart. I'm sorry. It's so smart. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's fucking genius. I love that.
I'm more than happy to be told why decay has to be part of the game. That's fine. I get it. I thought it was going to be gone, but I'm not a fucking game designer. So if it's got to be there, I get it, but they've drastically changed the way in which it works. You can no longer decay and lose your rank. So that's like something that has been universally celebrated, amongst the community. It also seems to be the case that, I don't even remember. North, you take us off. What else has happened?
So the decay has been capped, and then the entire standing system has been removed. And so the maximum progression is no longer related to the amount of players in your server, which no longer punishes your faction for being too small or encourages you to pool boost. And so essentially the maximum contribution that you need, a normal, quote, bracket 1 spot from before, is at 750,000 honor. Obviously those numbers are subject to change, but there is a finite number now on this is how much you need for maximum progression. That is the big thing alongside the decay. I think there was another thing, but it was the way that it was processed. So it's the way that it was really, really gross the way that it was processed, and it took forever on the day of the reset. And you'd have like some people getting their stuff would get it hours and hours later than other people, and so they changed that so that it's a lot smoother and that the process updates a lot cleaner. There were a lot of the explanation I think went into some of that. I didn't look too deeply into that, but basically, decay has been removed for greater than your rank. Right, you can only decay to the bottom of your rank, and the way that you get ranking points is now, or CP or whatever you want to call it, the way that you progress is by specific honor margins. So that's basically it. It's very, very simple changes, and it still fundamentally, I think, will feel like the old system minus the, oh my god, I got to keep playing, because the cap is set fairly low. 750k is not that much, which I think is pretty good, because realistically, if you're still gonna have to play a whole hell of a lot to do it, you won't have to, break your eyeballs staring at your screen and break your back from slouching in your chair the whole time. And you can rank for a couple weeks with the boys. And then if you've got shit to do, right, you get to your next rank and then you stop ranking, right, and then you keep that progress. So I think it's brilliant. I think it's a simple. I think it still looks very similar to the old system. I think that they also changed the number of weeks that you needed total. So I think they brought it down from 12 to 8 as a quote, like standing 1, bracket 1, top number. I think they reduced that. I don't like that. I think that maybe is a mistake. I think that is the only thing in there where I'm like, don't know if I like that. But I don't think it's a huge mistake if it is a mistake. And that maybe is me just, bunker lord that I am, wanting to spam more Alterac Valley. I especially with the decay being set to what it is, I think especially when it's like, you're not competing against anyone else in your faction, you're kind of competing against yourself. I don't think, because I think it's still meant to be hard, and then you'd have this whole thing where it's like, okay, now the last few weeks are hard, because if it takes the last few weeks of it, you still have you have the decay as normal, and so you have to push through these ranks, but you can stop at 12, and so then, it really is, the question is, okay, it's 12 to 13 and 13 to 14, and that still is a challenge, you still kind of have to be a crazy nut job to do that. Not crazy nut job, but you have to be you have to really be trying. You have to really be pushing to do that. I don't know that if all of it should be accessible. Maybe it should be though. Maybe it should be. I haven't really landed there. It's just like an immediate sort of. I don't know if that's what I love the most. I think it's probably better for the community though. I think my only gripes with it are very, very personal. And I think kind of mercurial and a bit, nostalgia-y. I don't think that they're real concerns. I think that ultimately probably everything that they did was beneficial.
Go for it,
and I think it's brilliant what they did. I think that there was no, I can't think. It's like when Apple releases a new iPhone and there's some like weird UI feature that I had never thought of, and I'm like, wow. I was like, I never realized how much I needed X feature. I never would have thought of that. Some UI changes, you're like, oh, like why haven't they done this forever? Like Windows is constantly making frustrating changes to their UI, and it sucks and it's annoying. But this feels like a solution where I was like, I really didn't know. Someone asked me a couple days ago. They were like, what do you want from this? I was like, well, I want RPGs, but they're not going to do RPGs. And then like, how would you even do RPGs? That'd be weird. How are you going to do it? And yeah, go ahead.
I thought they were going to go down the route of implementing some sort of rating. I don't know if it's RPG specifically, but I thought like they would do something to do with your win-loss ratio, maybe to incorporate more people playing with other people and things like that. But they haven't gone down that route, and I think it's fine. I think if I was to just put it down to anything, I think they've just completely modernized the system. The feeling of getting rank 14 back in the day was just, personally, I don't think it took any skill. It was just a time commitment. And yes, you could argue that with the same now, but it's just completely modernized it for me.
Well, let me ask you about that, Entice, because when you say modernize, I was expecting, like I alluded to before, I was just shrugging my shoulders expecting a currency system. And we've got, like someone listening along live in chat now is like, for fuck's sake, why didn't they just do a fucking currency system? I actually, upon seeing what they've done, even though I was expecting a currency system and I'm a fuckwit who likes the simplicity of a currency system, but seeing what they've done, I'm like, that is cute. And I kind of like that they've kept the flavor of the classic ranking system and just made the basically needed tweaks.
That's
so when you say modern,
that's why it feels brilliant, because it is in the spirit of it. And even the like, there were the people who just like got the rank 14 after everyone else, and they like got like kind of their slouch rank 14 when all the brackets are lower, and they weren't good PvPers, and they just grinded, and that's all they did. And you still have that. You still have the grinder can be there, so it's not like, oh, this has to be arena now. It's kind of like, I think akin to, I think if they had made it a rating system, and I asked for a rating system, but again, not in some serious way, but I think the rating system would have been a lot like, and forgive this comparison, I am so sorry for this comparison. It would be like upping the PvE difficulty of classic World of Warcraft in a seasonal event as the mainstay of the content instead of emphasizing the world content. I think it would miss the point. I think on some level it would slightly miss the point. The world PvE, the ranking system is not about people being good rated, PvPers. It's about grinding PvP. It's about grinding BGs with the lads, and this emphasizes that in such a brilliant and lovely way. And I think it fully gets the point. I think it is dead bullseye in the middle.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions, Hunk. Let me throw it over to you, and then we'll go to Renegade, and we'll be talking about this for a while, guys. So don't worry, everyone's going to get their word in. Hunk, I want you to have first shot at this question because I want to see if you get it quote unquote right, and North, I guess, will be the judge of this one, but. As I said at the top of this introduction to this topic, I am not sure why decay has to be in the game. I 100% accept that people smarter than me say, Josh, trust us, it needs to be there for XYZ reason. I don't know what those reasons are, and I'm happy to be educated on it. Hunk, tell me why you think decay is necessary in a system like Vanilla's PvP system.
So in a normal, regular, competitive, like, gaming system, you'll usually have decay for, I guess, a number of reasons. The first one will be to stop people from holding ranks in a system that has ranks, which the classic system no longer does, in order to prevent, them from locking other people out of ranks with minimal play. So it forces them to, like, play a certain number of games a week. The other one is that when people don't play for a period of time, their skills get really rusty, and it's important that they slip out of those higher tiers so they don't come back and ruin the game for their teammates while they're practicing up. In this system, the only real reason I'm seeing that there's decay is to increase engagement. That's largely what I'm saying.
That would have been my guess. Yep. And Entice, I'll throw it to you, mate. If I was sitting down doing an exam on this topic, and the question on the fucking exam paper was, why do you think games have a decay system? I would say, well, it keeps players playing the game and subbed. You know what I mean? Entice, What do you think?
I 100% agree with you. I don't necessarily, if it was the way it was, I don't think decay's necessarily bad. I feel it was bad if they were to go back and, decay past your rank, then yeah, I feel like that feels really bad. But having a little nudge to, log in and do a couple of BGs with friends, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and I think that's the reason behind it.
Fair enough. Renegade, what do you think about the decay system? Are you happy with the changes that you saw to the PvP system?
Yeah, in general, I like it for the cut of the time commitment that it puts in. Now, I just want to emphasize that I did not do ranking in vanilla. I was not a fan of ranking in vanilla, for a multitude of reasons. But what I really disliked was the insane time investment that was needed to dump into it, to the point that you had to put everything in your life on hold. And I know that because I actually had a family member that was doing the ranking system. It was my uncle. And I remember for those 3 months that he was doing the ranking, he was literally thinking, breathing, sleeping, PvP all the time. Just PvP all the time. Like, it's working a full-time job and then some. And for most people, that's not sustainable, and it's really damaging to the health of people. Like, to be sitting at your computer playing PvP, grinding nonstop, 12 hours a day, sometimes even more, every single day for 3 months straight, that is insanely unhealthy and a ludicrous bar of entry for the best gear. And I am a big advocate that we should have some sort of we should have a gate. We should have some sort of gatekeeping for the best gear in the game. I don't think we should be handing it out to everybody. And from what I saw, I fear a little bit that maybe these rank 14, the new rules for rank 14 might be a little too lax. But I think I'm going to have to see it before I can be like, yeah, this was too lax or it wasn't.
Yeah.
But
so
I just generally dislike the unhealthy amount of time you have to put in. I think you should have to put in a lot of time for something like rank 14. There should be some prestige to it, but the vanilla old school version of it was too much.
North, we'll throw it back around to you. I completely agree with what you're saying, Renegade. And quite frankly, I mean, I was, no changes and all that was the flavor of the day back in 2019. But, I would have been all for the ranking system.
The flavor of the taste list. Continue.
Oh, yes. North was not on team no changes. But, I mean, if you told me in 2019 that the ranking system was going to be changed so that you didn't have to be, borderline unhealthy and, sacrifice hours of sleep every week, every month or whatever to get there. Like, I would have been okay with it being changed back then, but it's good to see that it's being done now. North, the one thing that the guys have just brought up is that I have seen the comments already start to pop up. I don't put as much weight into it. I know where people are coming from, but there's the old, now there's going to be 1 million rank 14s, which I disagree with.
Unironically, there will be a ton more.
But not incredibly based. But not everyone's going to be a rank 14 player.
No. Eventually, a lot of the thing is a lot of melee. Pretty much every melee, realistically, every melee that is even remotely serious for the game. Like if I Josh, I'm probably gonna make a warrior alt and like on the new Psalm and just have it be rank 14. Why? Because it's not that hard and it looks really sick to have a claymore on a gnome. It's dope. It's insanely cool, and I will do it. And I never would have done that before. and now I can do it now. Like it is much easier. But people had so much fun on, the Forbidden Chicken named server that shall not be discussed here in the presence of the almighty shepherds and stewards of the classic experience.
I've said it before.
but people loved Hen House, and you literally, people just sat on there with like full bits doing all that, and there's a bunch of other shit that you still have to get. There's a bunch of other shit that's really, really important to get, right? My thinking though is I would love to see, I would love, because this does kind of remove like a big, like a sort of like a big play incentive for, like very, very strong gear in some ways, right? In other ways it doesn't, right? I think that largely it's good. Also, I'm very scatterbrained right now. The reason you need decay, Josh, is because you need the early ranks to go fast and the later ranks to go slow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, but I think this is a good thing, because I think having people in that more powerful gear, generally speaking, if they want to put that commitment in, it still is some time commitment, and you get more people PvPing, you get more people that won't just actively be like, nope, I can never participate in the system, and so I'm not going to. A ton of people then per capita in the population, they're going to be PvPing, and everyone's going to be involved. So what I want to see from them is then add these incentives in this season of what were we calling it? Right? Season of mayhem, season of tenacity.
In the
season of tenacity.
Next season.
Why shouldn't there be then?
No, it's officially called Season of Mastery 2.
Let there be things that differentiate these people. Let there be things that then differentiate the PvPers. Add more shit like title charm, right? Add more random little world boss fuckery things that have then the cool items because if you want that gear differentiation among the higher level players, if you're looking for it, you're not going to find it in raids. You're not really going to find it in PvP, because those two aspects, it's the popcorn and go. But you could find it in world bosses, because world bosses are that sort of sacred, weird, crazy nonsense, right? That everyone kind of accepts as they are. That would be what I would like to see.
If you're talking about the next season, no, Grand looked at us in the eye and said, I want everyone and their mother to call it Season of Mastery 2. I think that's verbatim what he said.
I'm calling it Season of Tenacity now because I'm tenacious. So that's
Oh dear. No, look, I've got a few more questions on this. So look, obviously there's a guys, if you don't know, there's a PTR running at the moment. By the time I publish this podcast, it will be maybe 3-4 more days worth of this PTR. So go check it out. It's basically just a Battleground, PTR. They want people jumping in there because they want to test how the honor is calculating correctly and everything's ticking over as it should. So I should say, like, I've been playing a little bit of it, and I'm going to play even more of it with Hunk after this. I'm sure you guys have been diving in as well. But I've got a couple of questions as a result, like still on the vanilla PvP system where, I guess here's an easy one. North, I'll get you to kick off, get everyone else to answer. Do you think they went far enough? Is this perfect, nailed it, 10 out of 10, walk away? Or is there more in a dream world you would have asked for?
I think the danger in this, and I think that the team, I'm not sure what they would say. I think that they would agree with me. I think that over-engineering this would be a mistake. I think that I think it's simple. I think it's effective. I think it captures the spirit of the system. Maybe consider, and they've already said this, consider altering maybe the number of weeks. Maybe 10 makes more sense. Maybe 9 makes more sense. I don't know. Maybe the amount of honor, maybe it should be higher. Maybe it should be lower, right? Maybe the middle contributions, maybe the bracket 2 contribution should be should be low. And then the actual top of the top should be higher. I'm not sure. I think that stuff like that could be changed. It's definitely worth looking at, but they are, right? I don't think there's anything that I can say that's like, oh, this really needs a look-see. The thing that I'm really concerned about here more than anything is this is good. This is exactly what we need. What's next? I want that, and they've done such a good job here of communicating it. And obviously, it'll work with the cadence of hardcore. They don't want to sacrifice their own hype trains and stuff. And it'll come probably around Blizzard or BlizzCon or sometime after the hardcore announcement where they show more systems. But I think there's a chance that they won't show more systems before now, right? I really want them to. That's the thing that I think that would be the biggest mistake. I think the thing that they need to think about, the thing that they need to look to, if it were me,
all right,
would be to keep this kind of momentum up. I think this is really, really cool.
Fair enough.
And I want to see more of this.
I want to start the spicy part of the conversation. Hunk, I'm going to throw it to you, then we'll come to you, Entice. Hunk, I'll tell you a story, and I'm not telling this story for. I don't want your fucking sympathy. I don't want.
It'd not be another classic Josh bathroom story.
Yeah, another one of those. Look, I don't want your fucking sympathy. I'm not telling this story for people to go like, oh, Josh, but like, I'll tell you a story from all the way back to, I don't know, 10 o'clock this morning, right? I am very excited to dive into this PTR. I want to do some BGs. I am an incredibly fortunate person who has this fantastic, following of people who listen to my podcast, 2,500 people in the Discord, 6,000 people tuning in every week or every episode of the podcast. I'm so lucky to have all these wonderful people around me. And I'm not, please guys, when you hear this, I'm not guilting you. I just need to tell the facts of the story. So I throw out and at everyone in the Discord and I'm like, guys, I couldn't be more excited. Let's go do some fucking Battlegrounds. I want to get a pre-made going and let's go fucking rip it up and have fun with the fucking crew. And I didn't get a single bite. I went, oh, okay. And I just, played some Battlegrounds alone, as I'm very, very used to doing.
Oh, buddy.
No. So this is what I'm saying. I don't want that. That's not the reaction I'm looking for. The reason I'm telling you this story, this is time for the spicy take. Look, it's very well known that I'm a lone wolf, and I'm not saying that the MMO should be catered to the lone wolf because that's going to trigger North. And I know that North is going to dive fucking hard in on, and he's right, always put the group as the priority. You should always build your game around facilitating group content, and I am an advocate of that. However, I think that should be done without necessarily horribly punishing the solo player, right? Now, when I go and do these Battlegrounds alone, what generally happens? Well, I'm not in a pre-made. I just jump in where I can, as thousands and tens of thousands of casual players around the world do. And what happens when you usually go up against a pre-made and lose said Battleground? You get that little scoreboard come up at the end that says you got 0 bonus honor. And you go, oh, okay, well, I'm left sitting there with my 12 honorable kills or whatever that I got in the 10 minutes that the Battleground took because we got stumped by a pre-made, and now I just rinse and repeat, go back in a 5-minute queue and try and get some more honor that way. Obviously, people are going to hear this and get upset and go, Josh, the answer's right there, fuckwit, get a fucking pre-made. And I've always sort of been a little bit, I don't know, I've been a little bit prickly about that retort over the years because I'm like, the reason I told you the story about the Discord ping is like, you can't always get people. Like, yeah, if you can get your crew together, you can have a great time, that's wonderful. But the boys or the lads or the girls or the crew are not necessarily always on call. And inevitably at times you're going to have to jump into a Battleground alone. And it's just like, it's so punitive in my mind to lose a Battleground. I struggle to understand why the system, like, I know you have to reward winning. I get that. And Tito would be having a fucking fit when he hears this. But what do you do with the losers? Like, how do you handle this, Hunk?
I actually had an idea, but Hunk, I don't want to interrupt. I'm sorry. I don't even know why
Hunk,
I started talking. I'm sorry.
Can North answer for you?
I'm literally slipping into like old North. I'm sorry. I'm muting.
I love you, North. And if you've got an idea, you're welcome to jump in. If not,
He's muting.
He's muted. He's out.
He actually
he's done.
did it.
He's gone.
So it's interesting. Like I'm well on the record with saying that if you want a fair and balanced PvP experience, you're probably playing the wrong game. And that goes for Arena as well. Look, classic PvP is unfair. It's a lot of people just stack pre-mades and stomp pubs. You've got pre-mades dodging other pre-mades. It's a hot mess. And people love it. People love the hot mess that it is. I always had this idea in my head, like, I would like it more if you couldn't queue as a full group. I would like it if it was like duo queue, right? Or, if you queued with 5, then you get everything's like multiples of 5, then it's always you're getting put in like 5 stacks with each other. And, like you could add all these things in to make the game more fair and more balanced and for everybody to have a better time. Like the solo player is only going to be going with the duo queues at the most. But, I mean, there's a charm to it. There's other games to play if you want a more balanced PvP experience, and other games in the MMO space. You know, you've got like Guild Wars 2 has some fantastic large scale PvP in you know, in its world beats first world and its arenas. You know, you've got League of Legends. There's plenty of other games. WoW Classic, it's a hot mess. I personally like, even though I personally don't enjoy it, I wouldn't like that side of it to be changed. I know there's a lot of people who love what it has to offer. So that's what I'm saying. That's where I'm at.
All right, entice. Let me throw it. Sorry, North.
I think you can fix it. I think you can fix it. Actually, I think you can fix it.
Hit us.
You can fix him, North.
Yeah, let us fix you, North.
I really think, and it is 2 seconds. Literally, pre-made versus pre-made, right? You make it so that pre-made versus pre-made, there is a small amount of minimum win, so long as you have some points on the board, right? So to encourage you to keep that one basin, Wrathy Basin, to have some kind of cap, right? Like to have some kills on the board. You encourage, but you have a much higher honor multiplier on pre-made versus pre-made games. You force pre-mades into pre-made queues, and then you have a 1 to 2 person limit on pub games. And you have a lower honor multiplier on those games.
That is a fix, North, but would you actually be an advocate for that fix?
Absolutely.
I like that idea.
I am shocked that
I love the idea.
I just came up with it, and that's why, and I had to mute, and I had to let him say his piece. But that's genius. Devs, we're hello.
I love that idea.
Hello? It's brilliant.
Those sorts of ideas had been proposed before, and again, like does the broader community want that? Like, there's other games that offer that sort of.
I've heard of right. So I've heard of separate them into queues. People have often said separate them into queues. I have never heard someone, and I've been in this discussion a billion times. I've never heard someone say to change the honor multiplier and give them a minimum, so then the pre-mades that get stomped with pre-mades don't just, you know, they don't just dissolve, right? So you're incentivized to actually pre-made, because what this happens, if you have pre-mades like this, if you have a pre-made priority system, right? So there's two ways of doing it. It's making it so that pre-mades can only queue against pre-mades, or that pre-mades always gets matched against other pre-mades first. So if you're the best pre-made, then everyone else dissolves, and then you just take turns what pub gets stomped by them. Obviously, in a bigger ecosystem, that changes. So it would be a question of whether or not it's a priority system. It'd probably have to be a priority system, so you could still match up against pugs if there were no pre-mades rolling, right? Other pre-mades against you if you've disbanded every pre-made. That's how it worked on private servers, is basically you would create a pre-made, and if it were strong enough, it would destroy every other pre-made, and then they would be forced to ratting around in random BGs and trying to win in little, as big as they can, if the server had a priority queue. If not, they would just dodge the hell out of you, right? And so obviously they created some anti-dodging stuff in Classic, as did some private servers. But if you created a modifier, if you made it so that even if these guys lost their games, that they would be getting comparable honor to ratting around as like little groups of 1 or 2. If you made it so that was comparable to actively incentivize playing as a pre-made with your boys, even if you're going to lose some games, I think that would actually be a fix that would make it tolerable.
But then just RBGs maybe.
But why does it? So then you're separating the RBG fellow from the pub stomper, from the the solo queuer, and you're creating, it's less of a peanut environment. It's truncating it. It's stratifying it in a way that it doesn't need to. Stratifying it. I don't. It's separating people when it doesn't need to. Whereas trying to just priority queue the pre-mades against each other would.
That's still stratifying though, right?
But it's not, so long as it's a priority system, not a exclusive queue. Right, because then you still would have situations where you have these pre-mades and they're stomping, and you have this, the stories of, oh my god, you still have the imbalance. But if there are pre-mades queuing, you force them into cool games against each other, where they're now more of an incentive is on the line, and they're not forced to do the cringe thing, to be honest, which is roll over to the other pre-made. That sucks, right? That really does suck when that's the incentive now, because it's like, oh, okay, well, you need fast honor, so now we're going to do that. I think trying to fix that is a good, and encouraging pre-made versus pre-made to not fold is a difficult problem. I don't even know if my solution actually fully works, because it's like, is it the bonus honor? How does that work for Warsong then? Because in Warsong, you're not going to get a single flag, right? So is it then you get an incentive for winning? Is it or for losing with 0 flags? That you still get some bonus honor? Maybe like have the weekend honor rules implemented. That would be the easiest way to do it. Is you just literally, if you're in there, you just get double the weekend honor. So it's as if like if it were the weekend for Warsong, you'd get double for that. And if it weren't the weekend for Warsong, you'd get Warsong weekend honor if you were in a pre-made versus pre-made. Something like that.
I'm genuinely shocked to hear that you'd be for an idea like that, because that's what the Discord's been talking about the last couple of days. You basically got, if we were to hypothetically suggest something, you've got two choices. It's make pre-mades play pre-mades, or limit, what we call a pre-made, being that you can only group up with like 2 or 3 other people, or however you cap it. Now, the come back to that, obviously, let's say we live in a world is like, if you completely kneecapped pre-mades and now pre-made is 3 people, Gecko's point of like, then you've killed what makes WoW fun for a lot of people. They like to get together with the crew and fucking pug stomp, and that's the game for them, and I accept that. But then I think the fix is like, okay, well, still make pre-mades a thing, just make them fight each other. I'm like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Wasn't there a half a second in WoW Classic where they did actually try to make pre-mades fight other pre-mades, and for whatever reason it didn't work?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Did they really? When was this?
This is I'm sure I'm not misremembering.
It might have even been in the beta,
late
actually.
Classic,
I
or
remember.
early TBC.
I
can't remember.
I don't remember it, but that was like kind of that was going to be my suggestion, because I play Classic. I play retail as much as I play Classic, so I generally just jump in between, and that way I'm able to see, the good and bad things for both versions of the game. And that is one thing, it's pre-mades versus pre-mades. Now, they do limit pre-mades in retail a little bit more to 5. But I still think you keep it 10 or whatever for Classic. But I think the go is going just directly pre-made to pre-made.
Sorry, you go.
Everyone, I was just going to say, just going back to my point, I feel like people underestimate how much people enjoy that power imbalance and how much they want to just stop down.
That's where I was going to go. Keep going.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you overestimate the degree to which they enjoy that power imbalance.
No.
I, as the person who's often been in those situations, as the person who's been on the giving end of the hot dick down to the anvil of the pug, I don't enjoy that. And most of the people that I played with don't enjoy it at all.
Bullshit.
They say they don't.
Bullshit. Because it's like, why
They
is
say they don't.
this thing is like the prolific thing is
Exactly.
Lobby ganking.
We're forced
Why
to
is that
for
a
the
thing?
gear. We're forced to for the
Yeah,
gear.
yeah, okay.
We want the gear. We want to play the fucking game. We want to be at the best. We don't want it. The only exception to this, there's one exception. It is really fun to pub stomp in a Wrathy Basin, specifically because one little rat boy can like go across the map and try and cap one thing, and it'll lose you 30 seconds. So you actually can min-max that very effectively, and this becomes this game of like, if the mice scurrying around the field can actually pull it off. But even that, it gets boring, because eventually after a couple hours, if the pugs are facing you long enough, they just give up, right? So you don't even have that give and take. It sucks just murdering people over and over again and sitting at their graveyard and just farming them. I don't enjoy that. Maybe it's because I don't play warrior in PvP, and so the warriors are just like, I get to cleave. I have to drink and I have to run flags, so maybe I hate it because of that. But like,
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. I think that, gamers have no boundaries when it comes to touching themselves over stomping a lesser player. It's why cheating is so prolific in first-person shooters. It's why Smurf accounts are so prolific in games like League of Legends. It's
So
why
prophylactic.
it's why fucking lobby ganking is, rife in World of Warcraft Classic. People can't get enough of fucking dusting up someone who has no fucking chance against them.
Except for the fact that all of those examples are always rarely, and I've got you in the corner. It is rarely that you make a mistake this foolish, Josh. Those are all lone wolves. They're all fucking cringers who make no friends, who have no people around them.
Fuck
they
off.
do
Like,
not
you get
have
in a group
15-man
and the feeling
pre-mates.
goes
They don't have
away.
10-man pre-mates. Those people exist in numbers that are far smaller than the lone wolves who sit around and are like, I'm going to wipe a hardcore raid. Like, they don't exist. They really don't exist, because they can't socialize with other people, because they don't understand how to go about doing that. So they don't exist in large enough numbers to summon a pre-mate and for a long period of time pub stomp for the sake of pub stomping. They straight up don't exist.
Fuck off. So you're saying the collective dissipates the individual feeling. Like, all of those
100%.
people in the group are the shitters. If they weren't in the group, they'd be the shitters. And it's not like the collective makes them like put on their best behavior
No,
all of a sudden.
it's just that that kind of organization, the amount of effort into organizing these people, like they don't go to like these crazy lengths. These aren't like the best players, and they're not sending their best when these people are just trying to pub stomp, right? Like, and really want to, like, you're not getting a pre-made of an effective pre-made of 10 Red Ridge gankers.
Then why do pre-mades?
Those players are terrible at the game.
Do you know what other
pre-mates hate fighting other pre-mates?
Pubs will actually give them a run for their money. Those are not the guys that are pub stomping. Those are the guys that me with one other guy, that me in a duo with a bunch of pugs will 3-0 in 15 minutes.
Do you know what other historical group always blamed the system for the actions of the individual? Cyclists. I don't know who you guys were talking about. Going to think about, but cyclists, when it comes to like doping and things like that, like athletes, like blame the system for like the actions that they have to do, right? So I can kind of see like where you're coming from there, North. Like you've got a ranking system. You need to get the top of. You need to get your gear. So you're forced to pub stomp. I can certainly see that.
And you're directly being incentivized. You're incentivized to dodge. You're incentivized to do this heinous behavior because you're in a ranking system where these people now are, you know, like you're competing against your own faction. So if you get less honor per hour, and I did it the first vanilla private server, not that I ever played in a vanilla private server, but the first vanilla private server that I played on, again, not that I would ever play on one, it was called Chronos 2. Not that it was ever called Chronos 2. And I aggressively dodged because, you know, and I was much younger then. I think it was maybe 19, maybe 20. And I hadn't really given a lot of thought into like how it would affect other people. And we aggressively dodged, whereas the other pre-made on our faction, they were not doing it all. Like they took every game, they played against the pre-mades, and we forced them into games with the pre-mades. We'd create empty games, force them into those empty games against the other pre-made. We would snipe them, do that, and then we completely smashed them on honor one week, completely unstacked the brackets, fucked everything. You know, like we were just completely like chaos and like mayhem. And after doing that for 3 weeks, I was like, this is really cringe. They're fighting with honor. We are not. We're doing the thing. And yes, we were incentivized to do it, but even then, it wasn't worth it. But if the system hadn't actively encouraged us to do that, we never would have even tried to in the first place.
Oh, it's the system's
right?
fault.
And we never would have been there trying to force them into these pre-made versus pre-made games while we farmed all the honor. And when you incentivize, and so removing the standings and like the competition intra-faction eliminates a lot of the cringe, and so a lot of the necessity for this pub stomping will go away. I might just like farm in like 5-mans just for fun, because I really like 5-man Warsong Gulch is really fun. It just sounds. It's really.
I mean, that's still like pub stomping though, like a 5-man in Warsong Gulch.
Yeah, I mean it can be, except for there are a lot of people like 2-man, 3-man, 4-man, 5-man. I mean, yeah, it might be a little pub stompy, but me and one other guy are gonna, like, if I have like a healer, right, like, or like I have like a damage dealer and I'm a healer, that you can pub stomp a game with just that.
I've got to say, it really does sound like you're saying pub stomp.
I am saying pub stomp.
Like PUB.
Yeah.
Instead of PUG.
Yes.
Dare I ask
Public
why?
game.
So I know that like
what pub stomp is a thing.
Public game.
Oh, I've never heard this term.
Pub stomp is the phrase. Pub
oh
stomp is the phrase. A pug is from pickup group, and you're saying, and pugs go in pugs and get pub stomped.
Ah, you learn something new every day.
But pickup group came after pub stomp, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because that was like a So it's not like the original, like there wasn't a pug stomp. It's a pub stomp.
Pub stomp was like it's been used in like old FPS games and things for a long time.
Pub stomp is much more fun. Okay, sorry, entice. You were going to say something.
No, that's I was just talking about the pub
origin.
Well, let me put this to you, entice, and North can listen in on this one, because I've got a different feeling to North on this one, where let's say you get these guys who, you know, like you say, they're decent PvP players, love to get their group of 10 together, love to fucking, you know, go 18-0 through the night and just have a laugh, have a beer. You know, I'd sort of refuse to believe that those guys don't sit there and you know, rub their nipples over every fucking, you know, kill and every fucking victory. Because
how long have you spent in a single session ranking, Josh? What is the maximum time that you've sat?
I know what you're saying. I've spent no time ranking, so how would I know? That's fair.
No, I'm not saying you wouldn't know. I'm not saying you wouldn't know. I'm legitimately asking, what is the maximum amount of time that you've sat there and queued BGs? I'm legitimately curious.
Oh, not long. Like, you mean in one session?
Yeah, in one session.
Oh, like 2 hours.
Okay. Do you think that after 16 hours, maybe your like the relationship to your right, like, so I want to try and paint a portrait here.
Yeah.
Most of the enjoyment after that, there is some enjoyment of it, like you're just kind of going around and like you're shitting on people for sure. But most of it at that point, in my experience, and I've ranked should I be admitting
I know what
this?
you're saying. I'm sure the drugs. Listen, I'm sure the drugs affect.
Maybe 6 after around the first 4 hours, and this is in the first day. Let's say the first day of ranking, right? Say you're the best pre-made. After around 4 hours, it develops into this like weird sort of like delirium, where you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you guys are just cracking weird jokes, and like there'll be one guy just like blasting music in the corner, you can like hear it leaking through his microphone, and like some guy's like forgetting to like defend the flag room and falling asleep, and like all this just happens. And as it gets later and later, none of the enjoyment comes out of the actual doing of anything, and really pre-made versus pre-made games take you out of this sort of malaise, but a lot of it is just sort of delirious camaraderie, and that is what, for me, that's what I love about. And so like the reduction of the rank time, for me, that is kind of an issue for me, because I like being it's like summer camp, right? Because really, and like a lot of the rankers will tell you this, it's like summer camp, because you're back with all the old faces are there, and you're sitting together and you're sweating, like in tents together, grinding it out. And that it's a thing that I don't get anymore, because I'm a fucking adult, right? I don't go to summer camp anymore, and this is the thing that is closest for me, and it is such a wonderful and nice thing, and it doesn't get changed by the fact that we're killing pugs. The pugs aren't the thing that's important. It's the spending time with your friends in this game. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be that you're fucking farming pre-mades the entire time, and you're in these grueling games, because we had those days where we were just in grueling games back to back to back to back. 1900 versus 2000 AB games on Chronos, not on Chronos 2, on Northdale, for example, where we're just being ground absolutely to our ends, and everyone is just like on the edge of their seat. That feels very different from just like pub stomps and Warsong all day. But the two of them are about the camaraderie. It's about the social interaction. It's about playing with other people. It's not about, I made his health bar go down. You don't need it. You'd be a Redridge ganker. If that was the thing that really made you happy, you'd be a Redridge ganker. And those exist. It's much easier to be a Redridge ganker than to get 9 really good players together with yourself, also not suck, and stay up 16 hours a day. People are not doing it for the pleasure of murdering pugs. They're doing it for the company of other like-minded individuals in a way that, in a disconnected sort of modern society, that we really can't get anymore in easy ways as adults, and also for sick epics.
I see what you're saying.
I disagree. Like, so my background with like competitive gaming's always been with FPS, and it was always historically like servers consistently had to be scrambled because clans would stack players on one team, not because necessarily they wanted to pub stomp, but because they just wanted to play together, right? They wanted to play together, but their experience of just like hanging with the boys and playing together caused a negative experience for all the other players. And that's what I'm coming back to, is like the idea that like you may not be doing it on purpose per se, like, because even though winning is more fun, but just by virtue of like wanting to play with your friends, grouping up and going in together in that stack, even if like taking the loot out of it, people just want to play together, that negatively impacts the experience of everybody else who just wants to join and play games, because they're going to lose.
That's true. That's true. But this conversation came out as a result of both of the two of you saying that no, people would legitimately be harmed by this. They would lose their enjoyment out of it because they're.
That's why I'm saying it shouldn't have to be changed. I'm saying there's plenty of other games that cater to that experience where you don't get pub stomped. There's plenty of other games. I personally don't really engage with WoW's PvP because I don't like being like fed into the machine of someone else's ranking when I just want to play.
But if it is the case,
I'm fine with that.
If it is the case that they can re-incentivize having these games, right? And you're right. So if they change this, then who are they going to negatively impact? If they properly line up the incentives so that you don't suffer from being in a pre-made versus pre-made game and you still are rewarded for it and you're encouraged in it, then those players get an outlet for that PvP. And then who loses? The only person who loses in this scenario is the large group of people who get together to pub stomp and Warsong. Those are the only. Are we comfortable sabotaging that demographic? Absolutely. I feel like we should be.
that's
that
the
comes
core
back to
question
what
that it
if
comes
they-
down to.
what
Are
if
we
they play
okay
each
with
other?
that friend group
Because
having a diminished experience?
But what if they're
that
playing
friend
each
group
other?
isn't necessarily having a diminished experience. They're only having a diminished experience if their only enjoyment comes out of making other players suffer. That's the only thing that we're making the sadists lose a bit. And
But we got to be real
here,
here, though. Like that group of 10 people, they're going to be queuing into, say, like other pre-made groups, and so that's going to mean like that's going to evolve from like just a couple of people having some beers and playing some PvP to like, okay, well, we need someone to call, or we're going to lose all the time. Okay, well, I'm calling, and if I'm going to start calling this like a BG, why aren't you guys using consumes? Why is comms not being quiet, etc., etc.? You know what I'm saying? It's going to like escalate to like a competitive environment as opposed to.
And then people are going to engage with, and God forbid, participate in World of the horror. The abject terror I am. God forbid people play the game.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I got absolutely nothing, no skin in this game whatsoever.
I have all the skin in the game. My entire skin. The forefront of my skin, if you will, is in this game. Okay, it's on.
Yeah.
It's about.
I know. You look at.
All right.
You know,
both of you.
You're at the foreskin of this game.
Yeah. Entice. You and I are going to hijack this conversation and give these two a break because they're both,
I love talking with Noel.
they're both right. No, you guys are great and you're both right. But I want to give Entice some time in the sun as well, mate. Going on from that, like I said, I truly feel like both of them are correct. Like North is right to say, oh, what? So we're going to ask these guys to fucking actually engage with the game and do the proper PvP. Like that is the desired result. I agree. Hunk is also saying, I think that like if you push these guys and actually give them a sense of competition, it may actually turn them off. And that was kind of my point, is that I know North was right to sort of have a go at me and say, you're wrong to say that people get that dopamine hit of every one of the 35,000 kills they put in over a ranking session. But there's still an underlying point there that they don't necessarily want to come up against any kind of stiff competition because that dullens the fun. That
should we cater to them?
Yeah. So Entice, what do you think?
Well, I think the issue is that not necessarily does it dull it for them, but it kind of. Everyone's got an end goal when it comes to specifically classic PvP, right? Whether that's ranking. I remember when I had to get my offhand in classic for MC as a mage, right? And I had to just spam AVs to get my reputation for it. And if you aren't stomping, okay, you aren't progressing as fast as what you would like. And I feel like that's the issue that's coming. So not necessarily are people enjoying the stomping, but they're enjoying how much they're progressing into their end goals, and I feel like that's the issue.
Yeah, he's right. Sense? Yeah, you're right, because like it was like the AV grind became so toxic. Like you'd get, you'd go and like try to, if you were on Horde where you were getting, you had to wait in like the long queues and things like that. You'd even get people if you were going off and capping like certain towers or certain things.
If you
make a loss take longer, you'd get hate whispers and things. It was real.
If you deviated from the set schedule, you were
right.
Yep.
And on the servers where like the imbalance was pretty heavy and the populations were high, Stalag and Scarum come to mind. Those servers were right. Could I blame those individuals? Right? Like, do I really think that all of those individuals and those servers were so fundamentally different? I think Scarum was a little different. I think Onslaught. Legit, they were living up to their name. They wanted to kind of murder that server. They wanted to be on a PvE server. Fuck Onslaught. Cringe motherfuckers. Hate them.
And Ale specifically, right? Like
no, not Ale. Ale's a great
I'm only kidding. I love Ale.
He got caught up in a dangerous organization that was trying to create PvE servers out of PvP servers. B.
Oh, we'll trigger him.
More
don't
importantly,
do it.
They didn't want to have to go into Ironforge and be popping a Guerrillian consumes to try and take over these houses and murder the nascent members of the alliance. It ended up being super fun. Like it ended up being really awesome. But they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to like sit there and like go around. The only reason they did that, eventually they want to do it. The only reason they did that is because out in the world, it was like a million minnows running around just trying to kill any scrap of alliance. And it's like, okay, well, they just like camping you over and over and over again 10 times. Absolutely not. They didn't, but they had to. They were in a zero-sum game against every other member of their faction, and honor was hard as fuck to acquire. And so in the actual world PvP phase of this, you were directly incentivizing just everyone to try and reef everyone as hard as possible because there was a resource on the line.
We played an hour ago, we know.
Yeah.
That's where you see. That's where you see. It's like you're like, oh well, these people would do this. Yes, I'm sure there are people who pub stomp and they enjoy pub stomping, and the reason why they want to do it is because they like pub stomping. But the vast majority of those people are of the competitive players. Maybe not the vast majority. I think enough of them do actually want to challenge, and they want to have competitive games, so long as it doesn't directly disincentivize them. That was the issue. That's why people rolled over. That's why it was like you got no honor from it, and you're in these long games. That sucks.
And I think it just comes down to the fact that we can't, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? We're at a fork in the road where they have to kind of make a decision, and I think they're just going to go down the route of just, pub stomping continues. But if they were to go to change, it means it would be going down a different route.
I think the different route is better ultimately because
I agree.
You're giving people an incentive to legitimately, participate in this way, and then you're like, okay, well, it is kind of pigeonholing people out of this. And someone in chat was saying this, right? Like when you design the system that way, you kind of are forcing people in these situations. I think forcing people into competitive PvP, if you want to be like playing with your lads, making it more difficult and making it so that there is stuff to talk about and there is stuff to interact with, I think that's a good thing. I think that is a good thing. I think that I think that yes, it's going to feel bad for some people, but I think it feels bad for more people, the pug stomping, and I think it's less fair than it's going to feel bad for the groups of friends that want to pub stomp. I think we should optimize more around the pub experience, that they not be pub stomped. I think that is more optimized, and I think you should also optimize around the competitive player having a real reason to compete that is directly incentivized by the system and not actively disencouraged.
All right, let me jump in, guys. Hunk, I'm going to get you to start on this one, but I want to hear from everyone on this one. We have a question from the crowd. We have a question from the devs, Hunk, for you and the lads. And I must ask, Hunk, did you ever see yourself in a situation where you'd be sitting around one day and rather than throwing questions at the devs, fielding them?
I used to argue on the old PlanetSide forums back when Sporkfire was the PlanetSide, the Sony Online Entertainment rep. So, look, I've gone into the trenches with a few developers in my time, but not for a while.
All right. Well, look, Blizzard is asking you directly, Hunk. They say Hunk, they say mate, they say love. And he completely anticipated where I was going with this one. I'm spewing that he jumped in first before I did, but. Question for the group. Should something be done about the Alterac Valley, Dreku or Keku meta? Is that a bridge too far or should that get a look? Look, we were talking about this again in the Discord. It is amazing that something has been done about the framework of the PvP system. It's great that that's been changed. It's great it's been addressed. We can move forward in modern times with something that's not silly. Now that the framework has been changed, is there anything else that maybe needs to have an eye cast? Does the eye of Sauron need to be cast on anything else? And we were talking about it yesterday, and my thing was like, look, I don't think it stops here. I think that if I know it's hard to not have a meta, and metas will always develop, but the current AV meta is not fun. The game is not fun when everyone's like, let's just go to AV, let's all run past each other, finish the Battleground in 6 minutes, chastise people for engaging in PvP, and just rank up that way. It's fucking horrible, quite frankly, and it makes me not want to play or engage with the system. And, we got guys like Tito going like, isn't that easy? Like, just buff the honor you get from fucking Warsong or Arathi. Do something. Hunk, please answer our friends from Blizzard. Do you think anything else should be done with the PvP system, such as changing the AV meta?
Oh, gosh. Off the top of my head, I would like to just see honorable kills worth more honor, frankly. Even in Battlegrounds and things like that. Like, I know you get the bonus honor for completing and things like that. I guess the downside is you end up with graveyard camping. And we've all been on the receiving end of graveyard camping, right? Where you just stuck there the whole time in a graveyard. But yeah, just, I don't know, honor per hour for the various activities.
Sorry.
As long as that was looked at to be normalized.
You're right. I've just got to jump in and one very, very important. This is actually, I'm not taking the piss. This is an important clarification. I was tongue in cheek there. It's not Blizzard asking the question. This is listener Josh G. This is Josh G asking the question, who's on vacation and tuning in as a listener. So that's I feel like that is actually a rather important clarification. Hunk, should we you were gonna say?
All right. So like currently, like, you know, the AV meta is, you know, fairly degenerate and no one wants to play it. But people do because they have to. If that was to be nerfed and changed, the next one I guess would be like, if you're in a good pre-made, would be a good pre-made fishing for bad pre-mades or pug groups to like stomp Warsong Gulch. Then that'd be like the other side of it. I just think like it's about normalizing sort of honor per hour versus your performance, and not sort of like encouraging any specific tactic over another. Like, if you lean too far into like honorable kills, like being incentivized, I guess, you end up with like graveyard camping, which is really bad for the game. That's probably worse than the AV meta. That's worse than just quick stomps. That's probably the worst outcome you could have. So yeah, I don't know. That's about where I'm at with that.
North.
It's definitely hard. Sorry, go on, North.
No, you go.
No,
go
ahead.
You go.
I'm just saying, I don't have too much to add to that. Just the fact that it's very hard. There's no one fix for everything. You've also got to like kind of counter player mentality, and I feel like that's a lot of issues within gaming, specifically WoW. Is like, you know, the meta slave kind of mentality of it all. So you got to like kind of counter that as well. So I don't think there's any one-term fix, but I mean, other than incentivizing more of the PvE aspects of that, granting honor and things like that, I don't think there's anything that you could just do and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that fixes everything.
There actually is something that would fix everything, but no one's ready for this take. This is an elevator level take. As soon as all the towers are taken, everyone is just on one life. And if you die there and all towers are taken, either your character's deleted, potentially 50-50, it could be deleted, or you could just end the match, you don't get another res. Either one, really, it's 50-50 on that.
I've always thought the ticket system's like a good idea with like the way Battlefield uses tickets. I think it's good.
The ticket system feels bad though. I honestly think that if there's enough towers are taken, if it's like if there is no tower taken in a certain amount of time, right? Like if the game has progressed and a certain amount of time has elapsed in AV, okay? If 5 minutes have occurred and no assaults on towers, no towers taken, anything, yeah, literally everyone then is, if you die, you're dead, right? Like if you die, then you're dead, and when only one person remains, you get this like duel to the death type thing, where it's like, who is the last man standing in the AV? That would be sick, and it would be awesome. Also, AV gains should, to be honest, I mean, the other stairway level flying mount should be removed. North's a crazy psycho on this. AV should be removed from the game.
Well, but that's also, wouldn't you go, I'll see you and raise you one, North, if we're you know, truly riffing here and building off of each other. Wouldn't you go, because my issue with your concept, I like your concept, but my only issue with it is the vast amount of space available in AV. But that's when you mix in something like a fucking PUBG and you go, but wait, baby, the map gets smaller.
You teleport them all into the field of strife. You literally teleport them all into the field of strife. You literally put like a bunch of Onyxias outside of the field of strife. And you're like, why, what, Blizzard, like you do this in these events and they're so cool and they're so much fun. You spawn Onyxia in Arathi Basin. Just force people into literally battle royale the end of AV when people are taking too long and being fucknuts and turtling. Just literally just throw everyone in the middle and just make it a free for all. Whoever wins gets 100,000 honor. Right? Whoever's the last man. Everyone's PvP. It's now Gurabashi Arena. The winner gets 100,000 honor. Bam, based. People have a reason to queue AV. It'll be hilarious and awesome. Like,
I'd play that and just hide to have that happen.
You can't hide in the field of strife, my brother. It's a flat fucking circle.
Every rogue vanishes and watches.
No, permanent fairy fire in every rogue. Fuck the rogues.
Well, why don't you take it a step further and we just have like an instanced Stranglethorn Veil that is
baby.
A PvP, like is a PUBG battle royale.
That is the greatest fucking idea.
Sick. No. Not STV. Not STV. Came up with this years ago, because there's a much better map for this. STV's not the best place for it. It's Ungoro.
Yeah.
It's and grow a crater because there are a lot of little landmarks. You have little power-ups, these landmarks. You spawn in with base rank 10 gear for your class. You have a PvP trinket. You don't have a second trinket. Okay, you go around. You can like kill little like you can kill Devil Star for like maybe it'll drop a title charm, maybe it'll drop a Toep, and like slowly the map gets smaller and smaller until you're forcing these like 1v1s, 2v2s, whatever you want it, and the middle of the volcano ridge at the top of the map. In the middle of the map, it'd be so fucking sick. It would be so fucking cool. That would be based season of crater.
I'm still on board though. I like the STV thing because again, if you come back to my thing of the map gets smaller, imagine like, and you don't even, maybe it was just, Northern Stranglethorn, or you could do the whole thing, whatever, but like imagine zoning into a Stranglethorn Vale battleground and all the mobs are there, so you still got to deal with not pulling mobs or whatever if you're fighting people, and the fucking map just gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time. I don't know.
And you're like you're like a 2-man. I would love that. You're in like a 2-man group. I think that would be the best way to deal with it because like rogues would be too strong if it were 1-man, right? Because you can just hide the whole time. But you have these 2-man groups, and maybe you prevent double rogue. Maybe you prevent double rogue. And you have people like the map slowly gets smaller, and there are different interesting parts of Northern Stranglethorn that I can kind of zone in on. So you could like outside of ZG, and you leave the elites there, and the elites are super juiced outside of ZG. Right, so you have to deal with that. You have to get through, and mages are like kiting each other as you go. It would be so fucking cool to have like a battle royale, like WoW.
PvP then.
Suggestion. You spawn in with nothing, and you have to like kill mobs that have like decent drops.
Exactly, you're killing them for like power ups and gear, and for like food and water, and like maybe health potions or something. Like that would be. That would be so sick. Whenever you like start in with like standard gear and then you get your shit upgraded. Obviously the mobs be scaled up to whatever level the battleground is.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. I think we're actually sitting here. This is the spawning point of the new Dota. So, and I'll sign us all up to contracts. Entice, you're in, mate. We'll take 25. We'll take 25% each. When fucking we spin this thing off and make sure that Blizzard doesn't get a cut, we'll be laughing.
Exactly. I think that kind of PvP would be really, really interesting. I think those kinds of incentives. I think doubling down in the world. Like to be honest, I say this as a joke. I really think that removing all of the battlegrounds would be a really good thing. Obviously, you'd have to have really good world PvP incentives. You'd have to fundamentally redesign most of the game in terms of like how people get their PvP. And even if you did that, even when you did that, and if you executed it perfectly, the issue would be is people still wouldn't like it. People still would just they'd be like, I want my war song. Even if the game were better, right? Even if you could say objectively, obviously you can't, but even if you could say that was better, people would want the old thing. And so there's no escaping that, obviously. But I think directively disincentivizing the bad things, right? It was Sid Meier, and I've quoted this on this show literally probably like 15 fucking times. Like I honestly 15 might be a conservative estimate. Players will min-max the fun out of the fucking game. They always will. They literally always will. In a competitive game, they will min-max the fun out of it. Like 100% of the time, right? Stop them. Do your best to stop them. Obviously, metas will develop, right? But stop them as best as you can. If you're attempting to do that kind of thing, if you want to redesign this, and this kind of leads from what I was saying earlier. I think that it is. You're right. It is not enough, right? Like this needs to be the starting place for the sweeping changes that need to be made so that Classic Plus can be everything Psalm 2, Season of Tenacity, Season of whatever you want it to be, needs to have this kind of thought put into how can these incentives be flipped around? How can we make these parts of the game that have felt, because there's a lot of dumb bullshit in World of Warcraft. How can we make it feel good? Because I think they've done, and the team is fucking brilliant. You look at what they've done. I don't know how much you guys have been playing this patch. On Classic right now and Wrath, somehow they've completely saved 5-man. 5-mans are my biggest problem with Wrath for Lich King. It's the biggest issue, and they have completely 180'd it. I do 3 to 4 dungeons every single day, and I'm enjoying every fucking minute of it. I'm doing multiple Ulduar 10-mans a week. I'm doing half a dozen TOGCs, 10-man and 25-man. It's a fucking blast. There's so much shit to do, and that's because they fundamentally assessed what was wrong with the system, incentivized players directly to participate in the fun shit that's going on, and it's never felt better
in terms of the ways that they've made such a huge 180 with what otherwise would have been a fucking awful mechanic. I would not have wanted to go back and gear my alts doing dumb bullshit and like, you know, a million Ulduar 10s, but now that it's extra, now that it's supplementary, now that I can get it through other means, and there's so many more people doing 5-mans and participating in the smaller group content, and I'm re-speccing for 5-mans because I'm having so much fun and I really want it to be optimal. And we're pushing like 3 mage halls of lightning runs where everyone's doing 60,000 DPS the entire run and just chain pulling. It's brilliant. It's lovely. It really makes you engage with it. We need more of that shit with vanilla. And obviously they're finally taking the weight. It's the Rock Lee Naruto scene. They're finally taking off the training weights and they're doing real shit. And I hope this needs to be the beginning of that journey into Classic, because they're willing to do it in Wrath. Take the bat, smash it down, rebuild a beautiful fucking thing with it, because I know the team can do it. They're brilliant. They're amazing. They're capable. I am so excited for what they put together, because I know they're. I don't know if it'll be perfect by my standards, but I know it's going to be an awesome.
As per usual, mate, you are fucking on fire. Tim, I tell you what, if you had to take a break the last half an hour, rewind about 5 minutes and bring your notepad, because we want you to hear our fucking, the amateur's guide to STV that we've just proposed over the last few minutes. But North, that was a fucking fantastic point, mate. Fuck, I mean, like I said, mate, you're on fire. Entice, God, this is him when he's not drinking. Can you imagine him if he's drinking?
Mate, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. You're very articulate. I wish I could speak like you, but that's why I haven't really speaking. I've just been in awe of North, just going at it.
Don't tell him that.
You
got no way. His ego is out of control.
You can't do that. The second the normal North takes over this body, he's gonna freak out about that. So you can't let the other. You can't do that. That's not allowed.
I do appreciate the passion for it though, because I feel like as someone who kind of looks at all, the stuff going on with Classic, it does sometimes get a little bit negative, and all doom and gloom. So it is, it's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, because of
passion.
Cynicism is poison. Cynicism really is poison. It's bad. We have too much of it.
And I sort of blame Hunk as well. Him and I are mostly to blame for all the toxicity surrounding Classic, but that's
all of it for the whole time as well.
Frankly, hey, look, it's one of those things. We've raised it now a few times. Season of Mastery 2, apologies to everyone, really does feel now like it's, I should have, I'm kicking myself for not realizing this at the time, really does feel now like it's going to be a BlizzCon announcement. Cata Classic, I'm guessing, will be a BlizzCon announcement. The survival game, I'm guessing, will be a BlizzCon announcement. Do you guys sort of, Entice, do you sort of pick up on the same wavelength that they'll hold on to all this stuff for then?
Yeah, I think it's very smart for them to do that. Particularly, they've had such a long break between BlizzCons. They really want to make this one big one.
They need this one to fire, and they need to hold on to, because like it must be a really hard thing organizing BlizzCons, because it's like, this is being the exception, but ordinarily you'd be like, fuck, every 12 months we need like 5 massive announcements to deliver to these pricks. So you'd obviously hold on to info for BlizzCon, but I mean, you just take whatever you can get. So even though ordinarily you'd say like Season of Mastery 2 as an announcement isn't maybe that big of an announcement in the grand scheme of things, but it's fucking something for BlizzCon.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something they're definitely going to hold on. Like when you look at it, we've got like 4 months until the BlizzCon, so it's not even that far away. So the fact that they're doing something, I don't know if it is what SOM is. I don't know if that is what people want to call Classic Plus, like, because that means different to absolutely everyone. I'm still not even sold they're going towards Cata. That might be
you're still on the fence that they'll do it.
I'm not on the fence. I'm not 100% sold that they're 100% doing it. But I definitely think they'll do some sort of SOM or Classic Plus kind of thing. But yeah, they've got something up their sleeve, and they'd be very smart to keep it up there.
I think the smart thing for them is to and I think that there's no shot that they don't do it. But I think that they've sort of taken a different vein with this, and I think that the team maybe is leaning into the differentiation of sort of what they offer. Because initially it was, okay, we're offering this one thing, we're offering a recreation of Classic, this is strictly what we're doing. But now now there's hardcore. There was some, maybe it wasn't as popular as it could have been. There's Wrath currently. Era is gaining some popularity, and so you have a lot of competing things sort of just like existing in the ecosystem. I think some people are like, oh well, they haven't announced some yet. Obviously, they're going to announce it at BlizzCon, but this is kind of this announcement, like the announcement for this announcement anyway, was kind of they're revamping the system. Okay, why are they revamping the system?
Yeah,
revamping the system for Era.
Yeah.
There's no shot in they're not revamping it for Era, and so it's that again. Brilliant thing of doing it without, you're saying it without saying it.
Exactly.
Right? You're saying, hey, this is going forward. I need more, and I get that they probably can't do this, and so my anticipation is that, and I'm curious what you guys think. I don't think that they're going to talk about any other system changes between now and BlizzCon, and that I think that that's probably reasonable to expect. And I'm not going to say that I'm super disappointed by that, but
there's
I
no
wish
other.
they wouldn't.
What
I
other
wish they wouldn't.
systems are there to change though? Like we're talking about like systems, like the PvP system's a pretty big deal. Like what else? I can't think of anything else that they would need to redesign. Like because like if you change, sorry, say again.
The death system.
The what system?
I like running back to my corpse.
Running back should be removed.
Death.
I like
There's
running
no
back to my
way.
corpse.
Nah.
I know they won't. This is my elevator take. Okay, this is my elevator take. All right, I won't give you a long spiel on this. You're saved from the 8-minute discussion
or a mechanic?
On why on ending with the monologue that like ends with "Oh Captain, my Captain." Running back shit though. They will never change it. But I have to. This is my shouting into the void. Okay, it sucks though. It sucks. It causes so much grief and annoying bullshit. You shouldn't be able to. The choke points should matter. You shouldn't be able to corpse run Bass, but then you have to change every other mechanic that can just then prevent you from ever getting into a raid. That obviously is an issue, right? So there's layers to this. There's layers to it. It sucks, but the game is not designed around not having it, and so there aren't real solutions to people just stopping you from entering the molten core. But yeah, I hate that. But what other systems could they change?
I don't think they can do too much in terms of systems. One thing I think they are going to do when it comes to SOM is definitely like completely changing some of the classes. Not completely changing, but giving something to each of the classes. So like Pally's getting a taunt or something. I feel like they're going to do a lot. I think they're going to make Rets relevant. So obviously some classes will need a little bit more love than others, but I feel like that's going to be, hey, we're doing SOM 2 and this is what's coming with it. And it's going to be like, no, I wouldn't say a revamp of classes, but they're definitely going to get some love.
Hey, Josh
I think the only thing they would need to really
Josh
like
saying
close on before now would be the Battlegrounds. Any change they want to make the Battlegrounds, I think that they should do that in a couple months. Hopefully have some idea moving forward of how they should alter those, and that goes in line with this change with the PvP system, trying to make it so that those are incentivized better, that AV is disincentivized or fundamentally changed, something to that vein, so that they can really capitalize on incentivizing fun and good behavior from players.
I try to talk over the top of him, Hunk, but he's relentless. North,
I am.
Josh G is saying, just don't die, loser.
Fair.
Well, true, but that's not my issue. My issue is when you die, and then you can go back, and then you can res on top of a world boss, where if you die, you become a mushroom and you murder everyone. It doesn't make any sense because I've spent my hard work and effort defending this little cove where the mushroom man spawns, and now they can just sit there dead, and I have no way of countering it. Maybe let me move their corpse. Let them run back. Let me move their corpse. Let me pick it up and let me throw it off the cliff.
Can I inject something, North? You said what else would they consider changing? What other systems might come under the spotlight in something like a SOM 2? Look, I really need to caveat this so fucking heavily. I don't necessarily want this. I'm just throwing it out there for discussion purposes. We have seen some private servers, multiple private servers in the past tinker with this thing because we talk about, race choice and what it does to faction balance and all that shit. Could you ever see a world in which an official Blizzard server, in the spirit of seasonal, where we fuck around with things, just say, fuck it, you choose what racials you want?
No,
couldn't see it happening.
Not at all.
No,
yeah,
no,
I personally couldn't either. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's the visual. The problem is it's the visual. Like if any member of the Horde can suddenly just like break a fear, how the fuck do you play Warlock in Alliance anymore? Like that's crazy, right? Like if you could just, if anyone could do anything of that accord, there's no like it's just a circus, right? Well, right? Like how do you know? Like you can't. There's no way of knowing. If suddenly if I was playing a League game and I was like, oh yeah, that's a Jinx, and it's like walking towards me, and the Jinx walking up, and she switches, presses her Q button, but instead of switching into her, like minigun, she just becomes Teemo. And just is a fundamentally different character randomly for no reason. I have no way of knowing that. That's crazy.
If my Jinx became a Teemo, I would just never play that game ever again. That's just...
If you have no way of knowing how it's going to react, if you're like, oh yeah, the enemy took Flash and Ignite, and then they randomly are teleporting into your lane, you're like, what? Like, how am I supposed to know that? Like,
I've spooked on this show before, no classes, no talents, no racial abilities. You can just pick whatever you like.
I'm not into the Ascension thing.
Mayhem.
It doesn't do
I
it.
like it when everything is done that way. Like if everything is done that way top down, but then what's going to make, it's going to be really, and this is the Mage in me. This is like me being like, no, you can't take my nice thing. Then I'll have to play against orcs with Escape Artist. Kill me. I would sooner die. I would sooner jump out of a plane.
Orcs with Escape Artist and Blink.
Yeah, oh wait, are you saying we remove the racial limitations as well?
Oh, everything.
Absolutely. Torn Mage though sounds nice. Like imagine Torn Mage. Imagine Mage with War Stomp. Imagine Blink War Stomp. Isn't War Stomp off the global? Could you like Blink War Stomp? That'd be sick.
Is it off the? I'm trying to remember because
I don't know if the cast is off the global. I've never played.
It has the cast, but it might be off the global. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you would be able to blink and what? Right? You could like blink and then instantly start chat. That'd be so sick. That'd be amazing. You'd literally be the best mage. You'd be the best mage.
And it'd be a fun 6 months while everyone figured this out, right?
I think removing the racial requirements on classes would actually be very interesting, because then it's like, oh, it's a mage that kind of can't be stunned, which doesn't really matter. Like Orc Mage, not that powerful, right? But then it's a Tauren Mage. It's a mage with War Stomp. That's crazy. You're how is that?
You just told me
already see what they do as LE Shamans with the War Stomp, right? Like into the combo that becomes uncounterable, the combo, if you can't break that stun.
You just told me it was ridiculous, and now you're into it.
No, I'm saying no, but
being ridiculous is what makes them into it, though.
Oh, wait, no. So the thing that I'm against is being any race with any racial. The race should have the racial, but you should be able to be any race. Any race, any class would be interesting. I don't know if I'm for it, but you shouldn't be able to be a gnome with hardiness, right? You shouldn't be able to be a gnome with stone form. You shouldn't be able to be a night elf with escape artist. You shouldn't be able to be a gnome with shadow melt.
I want to be, but I want to be a human with cannibalism.
I want to be a probably permissible. That one's probably permissible, but it should be like a side quest. It should be a side quest. Also systems that they should introduce. You should be able to, Josh, listen, completely on topic.
Just hold it. Entice has got to go. Hold it. Entice, mate, you got to duck out?
Yeah, sorry, mate. I'm getting stern looks by the missus.
No, all good, mate. Baby. Quickly, just plug your Twitter. Let people know where they can find you. Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, so if you're interested in, I'm calling myself a WoW community commentator, so I don't know if that's the appropriate title, but I basically just tweet about things happening within the WoW community. I cover all aspects of the game, and we don't always tweet about drama, but lately it has been. But if you want to follow me, it's n_Tice26. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'd love to come back sometime soon, maybe when something else happens. But yeah, I really do appreciate you giving me this platform.
All good, mate. Run off. We love you for it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. No, it's nice meeting you all.
Nice to meet you, Entice.
Yeah.
Huge.
He's got some fun YouTube videos too, everybody. If you find the Australian rapper in the back of the Falcon pickup truck, you've gone too far. It's the wrong Entice. He's the WoW guy.
So I should say it's n_TYS is what you want to look for. We'll help him out there. Look, guys, I don't want to keep you too long either. Are you guys happy to... Do you want to start winding it up? What do you want to do?
I'm fine. I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm chilling. If you're trying to ditch,
I'm
wondering if I should get one more. I'm wondering if I should get one more.
If you're not vibing, and we'll return to the Hunk and North show that this was never really going to devolve into anyway.
Do it.
Exactly.
I'm just wondering if
we nearly had it for a minute.
Should I go to
we nearly had it, and they took it away from us.
I know.
No, let's do it. Fuck the both of you. All right, let's go another fucking 20-30. Let's see how we go. I'll get another beer. You know what? You can start the Hunk and North show now. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
I want to get another beer.
All right, well,
Get another beer.
That.
It'll just be it'll be me
Just
alone.
the North show. Okay, it's just the North show for the next 40 seconds.
I promise we won't come back to fires and mayhem.
If we come back and it's like a Marxist meeting that you've started.
Countdown to communism begins here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to state-controlled MMO podcast.
Talk about the long con. Like, fucking eat your heart out, Tiny Violin. North has been playing the long game.
Yeah, except he wasn't, right? He basically got bored and he's kind of lame. I don't really like him. Yeah. He's not my favorite.
Hunk, you go get a beer. North, I'll just ask you this one question just to come back to that thing. I didn't address it. Look, I wouldn't say it like, it's not going to fucking keep me up at night, but it was weird to see, but very expected, very smart by him, I should say, even though I think he's a fuckwit. He got like the 500 subs that rained in after he did what he did. Like, that could be the catalyst for a fucking Twitch career. Who knows? It's an odd one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are enough people who, I think you see it with like Advertise. I think that you remember Advertise, right?
Oh yeah, I loved all that shit with Advertise.
Yeah, people like to like sort of root for a villain, right? There are a lot of people who identify with that. There were people who were fans of Joffrey in Game of Thrones, even though he's a shitbag, right? Like some people are just weird, right? Like they're allowed to have their little thing, and realistically, if you get enough exposure, I really believe this. If you are exposed to enough people, I think that anyone who is okay at interacting with and can be a consistent streamer will probably have an audience. So I think that it could be a good catalyst. I don't think that this was his plan. I don't know if he's that. I think we're giving him too much credit there. If we're trying to say he realized that in reality that if he had enough exposure, and if these giant streamers who would inevitably would react to his nonsense would have enough viewers that would really identify with his message and really just they like pissing in other people's Cheerios, and they would fundamentally identify with him, and then he would be able to form a community off of those people, like Alex Sensual style, right? Like I don't know that he was thinking that. I don't know that he was trying to get all the Cheerio pissers in the same area together, and this was his grand scheme. Pretty sure he just wanted to piss in some guys' Cheerios.
Obviously, just having a stream on, I think it indicates that he was somewhat witty enough to be like, I know that the shitheads, edgelords, and Findix are going to come to me like a moth to a flame once they see this thing happen.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted the attention for sure, right? And that's why he was really frustrated when Stay Safe was giving the credit to T Muggsy. He was like, no, this was me. Initially, he was like, no, it wasn't me. It was, and it literally just to piss people off. Like, it wasn't me. It was just, it was a mistake. It wasn't on purpose, right? So it's.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Very good. I'll go get a beer. You two kick off.
Oh, you didn't get a beer? I thought it was just North lecturing the people.
No, he didn't let me have my time alone. I have not converted chat to.
Well, we can do it together.
I mean, I agree. Countdown to Comedy. It's not the Hunk and North show. It literally is Countdown to Comedy. We forgot the name.
Countdown to Comedy.
The name of the show.
Seizing the means of MMO production.
Exactly. I think that them having incentive. I think that I was trying to think of what I was. There was a system that I wanted them to touch other than death and other than the BGs. Obviously I want more world incentives, and I get that they won't directly talk about SOM until later on, right? Like the SOM specific changes, obviously they're not going to talk about. So it kind of leaves them to just talking about the BG changes, realistically speaking.
But it could be like a prelude to it, right? Like even like these sorts of changes to the ranking system, allowing, like a more graduated and accessible approach.
Yeah, but I think that should be true of even if it's to the reputations. I think it's really dangerous for the game, like the way that AV reputations exist. I think that is like a weird grind that it feels shitty and bad, and it's rewarding PvE gear as well. It's not like it's a PvP specific thing. It's kind of like forcing everyone to do that kind of stuff, which feels.
And removing things that feel like work, I think that's a good goal. Like they're certainly like those reputation grinds. I mean, that one in particular, the AV grind, it really feels like work, and it's just like something you have to go through depending on the class you're playing. If you're like a caster, like what do you, as a mage, like you've got to get the offhand, right? Like, and if you're a, and that goes for all casters, no matter who you are, you'll want the offhand. Hunters, you're getting the bow. Warriors, it's the weapon.
And the ring, depending on the ring is super important.
I'm back.
Those are cheaper mount for some people. It's just there's too many things riding for it in a way that makes it dangerous for the game, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I definitely agree.
What are we talking about?
It feels too mandatory.
We're talking about AV. The issues with it, otherwise, then even if you remove even if you make it worse honor per hour, I still think you have the issue of the reputation itself, where that doesn't really exist for the other ones. But in part, that's because the other ones are so hard to grind reputation for that people just don't bother. Like, it's just too much work.
Yeah, I had no idea. Tito was explaining, I think it was the Arathi Basin thing, and it fucking blew my mind when he's like, it's 320 wins to Exalted or something like that.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I thought it was more than that, actually. I actually thought
that
it was
seems
more
low. That does seem low. I thought it was like above 400.
But what are the benefits? Are the items crazy? Is it
no
sweet braces?
No, they're not that good.
They're okay.
They're not great. They're like it's like if you haven't seen a mage blade and you're like a caster, it's like, okay, here's a shitty mage blade. Like that.
There's some other items that are like kind of like
the boots are interesting and good because you can use like stealth enchant on them, I think is the meme, and you still get move speed. So it's like there's like interesting reasons to have some because they have a equip automatic minor speed increase. So there's some items that are interesting there. It's mainly the boots though. So and they have these weird like sets, but the sets are kind of shitty. Right. So
can I tell you a story? And hello everyone in chat, by the way. Thank you so much for listening along live. Hey Barry, how you going? Can I tell you guys? Can we talk just sort of this PTR for a little bit and another like. I wouldn't call it a sad story, but, what Josh has been up to. I want to sort of see what you guys think about this. This will bleed into some conversation about how certain classes perform in vanilla Battlegrounds. So I did the thing when the PTR went live, and I was like, look, I've been having a lot of fun on a rogue on Era recently, and I've been really, the meme about me, North, if you're not sure, is that I am like laughably indecisive. And I always make the joke, even though it's not a joke, like back in the day when video stores were a fucking thing, I would walk into a Blockbuster and I'm the fucking cunt that's there for 45 minutes. It takes, that long to make a decision on what I want to fucking rent for the night. I'm horrible. I'm really, really horrible. And so you can imagine how bad it is when you're making a decision over what class you want to spend the next fucking 2,000 hours with or whatever. So I'm sitting there, I've been, having some fun on my rogue and whatnot. I've been having fun on a druid. I've been enjoying warrior for the first time, all this shit. And I go, right, what am I going to play first on this PTR? All right, I'll roll a rogue. Oh, and there you go. North Barry is saying he's been a huge fan of yours for a very long time now. So I jumped into, I've never played a rogue at 60 in Classic. I have played a rogue back in the day 15 years ago, have not done anything beyond like level fucking 30 in Classic. So I jump in a level 6, pre-made level 60, great gear, jump in, go, oh, sweet, fucking here we go, Warsong Gulch, rogue time, baby. And like, I know I'm not that great at the game, guys. I'm really not very good. I'm actually a decent, like no one.
You say yourself short.
No, well, that's what I was going to say, Hunk. I'm decent at world PvP. I'm decent at world PvP. When it comes to group PvP, I'm fucking terrible. But also I'm playing a class that I don't know.
It's practice as well.
Like yeah. Anyway. So I play this rogue and I just get my fucking ass handed to me. Like I am getting annihilated to the point that it's comical. And I got really sad and, Arcos is fucking around with me in the Discord going fucking get good scrub and all that stuff, which I deserve. But like, I just felt really, I got like, I wouldn't say depressed, but I got a little bit down. I was like, oh my God, I play this game all the fucking time. I've played for years and years and years, and this is fucking how I perform. And then I went away and watched all these videos, and I was like, well, what's the deal with like Rogue and Battlegrounds? And everyone was like, all the content creators were like, hey, actually, Rogue, yeah, it's good in Battlegrounds, but like in a group fight, you're going to get your fucking head smashed in. And I'm like, okay, I guess that makes me feel a little bit better. I don't know. But I'm trying all the classes and I'm having a really good time with it. Then I jumped on a druid and like I found the weird thing with healing in a battleground, which I've never healed in a battleground before. You know, the nameplate issue of like you've got to be within 20 yards to have the friendly nameplates come up. And I know you can just look at
turn up to 41.
Well, can you in classic? Yeah.
It's in the menu, yeah.
Okay, I need to do that then. Because that was bothering me, how close I needed to be to people to see if they needed to heal. And people were like, just look at the raid frames. And I was like, yeah, but you got to see which one is grayed out and which is not and tell who's in range and whatnot. I'd rather just look at the nameplates in front of me. Anyway, I'm going to try all the classes. Hunk, you and I are going to fuck around later on and have some fun as well.
Oh, yeah.
North, what have you been playing on the PTR so far? What have you noticed that you might not have known in the past about, you know, classic BGs? When I say things like rogues are actually kind of fucked in Battlegrounds, are you nodding your head or are you just like, you're a fucking idiot, Josh? What do you reckon?
I am too in the malaise of, I am not in my head. You are an idiot, but I am so swamped in TOGC stuff. Like I log on and I do dungeons for like ever. I have so many things. Like I have real life shit that I need to do. Like I need to fix my keyboard. My keyboard is not fixed. I'm modding a new keyboard. Because I'm replacing the one that I currently have, and I'm using the old one as a foot pedal. Anyway, long story short, I have shit that I need to do, and I'm just grinding 5-mans all day because we moved up from 5 splits to 6 splits. We're trying to move up from 6 splits to 7 splits because we seriously want to try and win TOGC. Like we don't want to win NA, we want to win TOGC. Obviously, it's a tall or ICC. It's a tall task, but we want to be number one, right? And obviously, we might fall short of that, but we're going pretty hard. So I have not had a lick of time to go on the PTR.
No,
obviously, rogues suck in Battlegrounds doing anything other than ninja capping and defending. Rogues are ass in Battlegrounds if you're not doing one of those two things. Ninja capping and defending, they're insanely good. They are BIS class. But anything else, they're terrible. You walking around in a BG as a rogue, you're useless.
Yeah,
you do nothing.
It feels like a massive trap for the casual.
You're a bad warrior. You're a bad warrior that's real slow because you literally you're like, oh, I'm gonna stealth around and then do a thing. No one has any reason to come to you, so you have to spend 15 minutes RP walking to wherever to do whatever you were trying to do, and by that time that it happened, the battleground's over.
Yeah,
you've been RP walking.
And it's funny, yeah, Gecko.
If you're defending, they have to come to you. So.
Gecko, I did eventually roll a hunter, and that was the first class where I actually achieved some modicum of success because I've played hunter before. And
you're playing AB?
I was doing an AB.
Hunter is. How do you think it ranks in terms of power level in AB? I'm curious.
I mean, it feels amazing because of all that fucking space that you've got, and I don't know. It's just like. Hunters are very, very, very fun hunters are a fun class in general anyway, but I have much more success in a battleground than in world PvP on a hunter, which some people might find funny because like world PvP is the hunter's playground. But like, I don't know, obviously, I can be the fuckwit in battlegrounds where like people don't really notice you or they don't care. They're like, just let the hunter hit me. There's nothing I can do about it. Whatever. We're in a group fight. Just fucking blah, blah, blah. But like world PvP, it's you and them, and I shouldn't be, but I get annihilated by warriors in world PvP as a hunter. I know how to kite, but I don't know, I'm fucking something up. I really enjoyed the hunter. I have to admit it. It kind of like, I hate myself that it brought hunter back into the conversation. But like
the movements, the thing that you might be encountering is the movements in the warrior versus hunter, right? Where it's just like, it's kind of like lefties in fencing is the weird analogy that I'll give, right? Like when most people are right-handed, obviously. So when a right-handed person fights someone with a left hand, it's really awkward for the person with the right hand, but not for the person with the left hand. Warriors are constantly being dogged on by every other class. So they are really used to getting kited like crazy. So they know exactly how not to get kited. Whereas if you haven't put in that time, if you aren't familiar with it, if you don't know exactly how, you're going to be uncomfortable because you don't spend your time figuring out how to kite a warrior, right? Yeah. So whereas they spend all of their time figuring out how not to get kited. So I think that is probably the thing that and it's just like a specific sort of interaction between like the movement has to be very precise because a good warrior is hard to kite.
Yeah, fair
Hunter's
enough.
Insane in Arathi Basin though. It's literally the best class.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing even close. It's literally so insane. Because you have 40-yard mobile range. Fire Mage is also really, really good, but it's not mobile. You can't walk around and shoot. So you're not. It's not nearly. And in terms of your potential there, in like high level Arathi basins, hunters are essential because their entrapment like sort of choke points are huge because there are a couple of areas where it just becomes necessary. If you're descending into mine, you can't really walk through the hunter. You kind of have to walk through that area, and there's a very small choke there, even for the mine, and that's like the worst choke. There's chokes going up lumber mill. There's chokes going, through the blacksmith, either blacksmith bridge. And even if you don't choose those, there are only specific spots where you can swim up to blacksmith generally. So pretty much everywhere they can get you stuck in the mud, and one hunter can fundamentally alter the course of the game through just their utility alone, not even their damage. It's pretty insane.
Hey, I just got reminded of a really fun, maybe it might be a quick chat, I don't know, like a really fun chat I've always wanted to have on the show. You guys tell me if you don't want to have that chat, that's okay. But, I think of like the PTR that's going on right now, and everyone gets to play every class. And, if you've not had much experience with a particular class at 60, now's your time to go in and dig around and have fun with it. I've always talked on the show about like, abilities that really feel particularly amazing every fucking time, no matter how many times you do it, to press that button. If I were to ask you guys, Hunk, I might get you to start. North, you can think of your answers. If we were to conduct some kind of top 10 list of the best, like not necessarily the hardest hitting, but the question is the most satisfying abilities to use in vanilla World of Warcraft.
Across any class?
Any class. The most satisfying abilities, the most satisfying buttons to fucking press in this game. Hunk, what are you suggesting off the bat?
Look, my favorite ability, there's one ability I've always loved. I played a mage in original vanilla, was Blast Wave. I love the look of it, love the feel of it. But if you could add multiple abilities, I always loved shatter comboing. I always thought that felt so good to do. With your drop your Nova and then, Frostbolt kind of cold.
Very
Loved
good.
it.
Any others before we throw it to, I bet North is going to rattle off a few.
I'm also fairly into like, I guess, I like sounds and tactile kind of. I'm not tactile. It's not really a word, I guess, when you're playing a video game. But like, I've liked some elements of sound design. So I oddly always enjoyed the classic Paladin aura sound. Chucking on an aura feels good.
Yeah, sound is a huge part of it, to be honest. That's why there's a lot of classes. Like I've been on the show in the past, sort of giving it to some classes because I'm like for instance, like the modern Paladin. Well, when I say modern, I mean Wrath. But I mean, like, abilities, like, I give it to Crusader Strike, going, like, it's fucking shit. Because the sound effect sucks, and it feels like it doesn't have any weight behind it. I fucking hate it. Yeah. I'll throw it to North for one, and then actually, no, fuck North. I'll say one, and then we'll go to North. I'll have a reasonable list, but
don't threaten me with a good time.
I'll just kick off in the ether and say, like, I really, speaking of sound effects, I really weirdly like Rend. That bleed sound effect is fucking so good. It's so good. And I know everyone memes on Rend because obviously you don't really use it past 30 or whatever as a warrior. But when you're leveling those first 30 levels of a warrior, I really enjoy hitting. I've got it bound to Control 1 and I use my MMO mouse, so I'm not actually hitting Control 1 on the keyboard. I press something else. But like it just feels so fucking good. And you hear that like sploosh. I love it. North, what about you?
Okay, so number one is probably Blink. I think Blink is probably the best ability. I have a fucking thing on my screen, but I don't think it's actually Nova. I think number one for me is Blink. I think Blink is the most satisfying spell in the game. I don't even think it's close.
Tell us how. Why?
Well, first of all, you get to you remove stuns from it, right? Like but it also is just you feel immediate agency. You always feel agency with a Blink, right? Because it is the only snap momentum in the game. That works that way. Even intercept doesn't work that way. Like you can be slowed in your intercept, you can be slowed in other things. Blink you can't be. You get immediate agency. You remove the things that are on you. You become immune to the stuns that would hit you otherwise. And you just have immediate repositioning tool. Like it's peak Mage. It is peak Mage. It is the ability that if you removed a single ability from Mage, what would make them feel the worst would be Blink.
right? So that's the thing, and it's just every time you feel it, the animation is cool. It's a good amount of distance. It's just it feels free. My heart soars every time I press the blink button. My heart soars, and I feel the wind of you know, like of my ancestors wash over me. And I feel that I was meant to be a mage. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just it's beautiful.
You're the mage guru, mate. Can I tell you? Tell me again, and you will. Tell me if I'm crazy, because I don't feel that way about Blink. But because I would put forward the following mage ability that for me is the number one for a mage. Bit of an odd one, Frost Nova. I fucking adore.
That's not odd at all. I was debating between the two of those. Yeah, Frost Nova is very obviously, in terms of the spell, that's not purely utility. In terms of a CC spell, Blink is just separate from every other spell. It's just different from every other spell, right? Like it's just different, right? It serves no other purpose than to reposition and to remove stuns, which is cool. Nova is obviously the best damage ability, right? Like the best damage CC ability on Mage. Obviously, it's the best one, right? It has the most counterplay and the most, like, okay, positioning. You have to sort of interact with it. Great animation, great great ability. It's insanely strong. It's probably the single strongest spell in all of World of Warcraft in vanilla. I can't think of a stronger one. Can you? Because I can't. It seems to me the single strongest spell. If you were to try and nail a single strongest spell.
What do you
What about Mark of Zeliak?
Yeah, you know, the chain really is.
Too soon?
It wasn't the mark though, right? It was the holy chain or whatever.
Oh, true.
I don't know what that
Yeah.
ability is called. I don't even know what that thing is called. Do we know what that's called?
No.
Is that Zeli? I'll find it out.
I like as an ability. I really like Cheap Shot. I love the sound of Cheap Shot, like along with the animation.
That's my sixth. But Kidney Shot doesn't even make the list. Kidney Shot bad. Cheap Shot good.
Cheap Shot's good with the animation and like the sound. I like
sound
Cheap Shot.
effect in the game. The best and
Best
the worst.
sound effect.
Best and the worst combined.
I still think the best. I'm still gonna have to go with Paladin Devotion Aura.
I like the sound of
Chance,
that.
as it turns
I like
out.
the sound of that, but my list literally is it's Nova ? Or Blink ? And then number 3, easily Sweeping Strikes. I think every warrior on Earth will tell you that ability is the most satisfying fucking thing to press ever. And I agree. I think that's more satisfying than any other mage ability. Other than Nova and Blink. 4, Cone of Cold, easily. 5, Fire Blast, because it's sick.
Yes, I've got Fire
like,
Blast
not
on
that
my
impactful,
list.
but it's sick.
Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
beautiful.
It's lovely. It's not that impactful, but it's like it's mobility spell in a game without a lot of mobility spell. The animation's sick, the damage is decent. 6 is Cheap Shot, 7's Vanish, 8 is Feign plus Trap, 9 is Intercept for me, and 10, obviously this is like a mage freak response. It's Evocate. Evocate is awesome. I love Evocate.
An odd one on Fire Blast. This is a really strange thing to say, but it might just be the combination of the graphic animation and the sound effect. But obviously, there's a number of instant abilities in the game. This is such a fucking stupid thing to say, but Fire Blast makes you feel like it's the quickest. Like you hit the key and it's just fucking boom. You know, they're on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas like something like a Moonfire, like it's not quite the same. It feels Moonfire almost feels slow.
Frost Shock has to be on there as well, because Frost Shock's the same fucking thing. Frost Shock hits like a truck. It's instant. It's slowing. It's bonkers. It's so bonkers. It's got to be on there. It's probably there above Evocate. Sure. Frost Shock's insane.
I love procs. That's why it kills me that I'm not playing Wrath more, because it's like proc the expansion. I fucking love procs, so I've got a really big soft spot for Overpower as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's got a shit sound effect. It feels, again, it's got the Paladin problem with Crusader Strike, where it feels a bit floaty, but like there's something about how often it procs and just going like it hits hard and just going fucking bam. Like I love procs.
Do you know what I think's a shit ability? And this might annoy some people. Is Heroic Strike. I think any ability that's like, oh, your next auto attack's a little better is garbage.
Any swing queuing ability is garbage.
But Cleave is based. Really?
But Cleave has an extra effect though, right? Like,
Cleave is based. Heroic Strike is for sure shit. Heroic Strike sucks.
Heroic Strike feels awful.
Heroic Strike sucks. It's the worst. It feels cool in tandem with the other things that it does, but it's only because it makes you
hit more often. That's really the only reason why it
Yeah.
feels cool.
So here's the thing. I mean, if I ask you to put your dev hat on for a second, North, again, like, please, guys, I know there's a lot of you who are very well versed with the game who knew this shit years ago, but I only started playing a warrior seriously like a month ago for the first time, and I was like, fine, I'll finally try warrior. I had, like, I've been watching a lot of videos and all that shit. I had no idea that, you know, when you sit there and do the math, obviously you only get rage on white hits or whatever, that, like, you know, heroic strike is not just the cost of the ability. It also is the sacrifice that you make in the rage that you otherwise would have gotten if you had just done a white hit. So it's almost like a double cost. I can't believe
Except for the fact that it makes you hit your offhand more often, right? Which means, and that offhand swing still gives you rage. And so in a lot of cases, especially when you're at very, very high attack speed, and it becomes very hard to cancel, if you were to try and heroic strike Q and cancel, it is almost, in some cases, is a rage gain, right? And so you see that in like later vanilla.
My question from like a dev angle though is like, did they get it right? Is it actually like bonkers that it kind of is a double sac? Like, I know what you're saying is good, but like, did it work out in the end with heroic strike, or should it have been done a little bit different?
I think that the hit component is the real problem. That's the only real reason why you are hitting it anyway, and you'd have to like rebalance the. It's not the only reason you're hitting it. Obviously, it's the spender. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting in vanilla that it's the spender because warrior is the quote auto attack class. It is the auto attack class. I think having your main skill differentiator and the thing that you're spamming be an empowered auto attack, I think that actually is compelling. And I think that having it has like a higher rage cost because it also reduces the amount of rage you generate. I think that is also compelling, and it interacts differently if you have a two-hander versus if you have a one-hander, and so you kind of get this like plug and play where it doesn't always feel the same, and so the class feels varied based on what weapon you're using. I think that's a really important part of capturing warrior fantasy.
So you're saying that warriors are sort of weirdly more dependent on their auto attacks than paladins?
Oh, for sure, right? Because paladins aren't meant to really auto attack. Paladins are meant to press holy light, my brother in Christ.
Like something I feel like WoW's lost over the years with later expansions was the base kind of auto attack damage. And I do think I did like that observation, like warrior being the auto attack class, and like rogues had like some reliance on white damage as well. And now we're in this kind of like position. It kind of happens in Wrath, I think, to a large degree, where those like builder spender gameplay takes over the kind of auto attack gameplay.
Yeah.
Bit of a shame.
Josh, have you played? You say you love procs. Have you played? What are you playing? Are you playing in Wrath at all?
No, I'm not playing Wrath at the moment.
Okay, so I have.
Sorry, let me say. I tried a warrior. I tried a Wrath warrior for about a week the other day, and weird observation. Love all the procs. Kind of feels like one or two too many.
Yeah. Warrior has a lot of things going on. I think that you would really enjoy a near full bis TOC Mage, because Mage and TOC, because of the set bonuses, you have an astronomical fuckload of crit. Like you legitimately have like, I think it's 75% critical strike on Fireball. It might be higher.
How many procs do you get? What are you looking for?
So you're looking for the Pyroblast, right? So when you crit twice, you get a free Pyro.
So it's just the one.
And so you're constantly whack-a-moling just Pyroblast as you double crit. And so that's the main thing that you're looking for. Let me look at the crit. Your sheet crit is 60%, and you get from other random bonuses, I think it's over 25. I think it might be like 28. So you're rocking like an 80%-ish crit chance. It's crazy. It's legitimately crazy how powerful it is and how good it feels, because it's not like the beginning of the expansion. It's like, okay, I hit my Fireball. Okay, I hit my Fireball. They didn't crit together, and that's like a very frequent occurrence. Whereas with this, a lot of cleave, you're throwing your bombs out. The bombs proc, because one bomb can proc an entire hot streak if it crits two things. And so you're just constantly spamming Fireballs. Like on Faction Champs, for instance, the third boss of TOC, you're just running around, and there's, like 8 to 10, I think it's 8 enemies. You living bomb every single one of them, and the AoE is reduced there. So the enemy isn't even to do damage. It's to proc more pyros, and you're tabbing between mobs and keeping up the dot from each pyro on every single mob as you like then recast the bombs.
And so it's really sick just having the whack-a-mole and like the animation of, they don't have it in classic, but the animation of the later HUD changes, I believe they may were in kata to show you when you have it. If you just use the weak ore to do that, it's so satisfying. It's like the little fire and then the big fire, and you're just fucking constantly sending off pyros over and over because you have 80% crit. It's fucking awesome.
I think I like two procs. Two procs I think is the way to go, because I think it's something like the Vanilla Warrior, like I was saying, with the overpower, but also like if revenge were a thing, if revenge actually hit for a decent amount of damage in vanilla, which it doesn't obviously, but if it did, I think that like the Vanilla Warrior would be right up my alley with like, okay,
revenge tanking, where like revenge is fun for that reason. Like revenge is, you're right, like it's not
if
that
you're
good,
tanking,
but
yeah.
it is because it doesn't actually fuck it up. It doesn't cost rage to use. It's a small amount of rage to use, and it doesn't take your swing. That it is such a boon compared to other buttons to press. Like it does feel very good as a tank to press revenge.
As a tank, yeah, but if you're not a tank, like my understanding is you never touch it, right?
Well, you can't. You're stance locked. You have to get hit
exactly.
to use it, and then you are stance locked. So you have to like be in defense or battle, I think.
But if there was a world in which you're a warrior constantly looking out for overpower and revenge, and it was relatively easy to sort of chop and change between the two, I really like that kind of a system. I
think what you would like, and I think TBC Warrior would have. Did you play TBC Warrior at all?
No, sir, I did not.
It's Vanilla Warrior, but really the only thing it adds is it adds the thing that I think is really, really interesting. This would be really cool in vanilla speedruns, is Victory Rush.
Oh, I love Victory Rush. I fucking love
Victory Rush, it owns, obviously you kill something and then you just you have like essentially an instant mortal strike.
It's beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it is beautiful because it's simple, it's small, and it's like, okay, you have this optimization where you want to kill something and then your Victory Rush, right? Like you're like going from mob to mob, which
like
feels exactly how it should. It's
the
exact feeling it's trying to evoke of you're just like kind of mowing down mobs. I think that's a brilliant and simple and effective ability. I think it's really, really brilliant but the mage thing, the thing about it is you've essentially two things that you're doing. The mage still has damage cooldowns, right? And because it's TBC, everyone has gloves, you have potion, you this, that, and the other. And so what you're doing is the two things is obviously you're working around, you're keeping up your dot, keeping up your living bomb, and you have your whack-a-mole on just 2 crits in a row, but then you have your whack-a-mole on when your bomb procs, because your bomb will proc crits for you. So you have like the 2 whack-a-moles in that, and then you're timing your cooldowns. It's just the right amount of complicated. It's not complicated really, but it's just the right amount of there's some stuff going on. And oh my god, I get to spam pyros and run around, especially as you get more crit when you're really in the bis in this phase. You have so much mobility and it feels crazy good compared to the other casters. The other casters are standing still, and you literally you were doing like 360 no scopes and just throwing giant rocks of fire like at the boss like on repeat. It's awesome. It's sick.
Hunk, let me come back to my list of my favorite abilities in the game, and these will be ones that might be near and dear to your heart given your history with vanilla. I really, really, really like concussive shot. Bonus points if you spec into the improved version and it stuns them. I fucking really, really like it. It feels good just, getting that, seeing the effect and everything and watching them literally walk through mud as soon as it hits them. Another Hunter one on top of that is fucking, this has got to be a top 3. Getting a rogue with a flare is one of the best fucking feelings.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah.
It really is. The mouse over macro flare, bing bang boom, fucking MLG gamer. There
to
you
destroy
go.
their vanish flare. Yeah,
Oh, I love it.
that's really satisfying. It's quite easy to pull off, but it just still feels really good.
Yeah. Now, all your time on a hunter, you haven't said anything with a hunter.
I really enjoy Hunter, but like a lot of it's like combinations of things, right? Like I said with the shadow combo, like I really enjoy like the sound of like a freezing trap when it hits. The word goes like it's quite an enjoyment. That's my impersonation of the freezing trap.
Very good.
I enjoy arcane shot as an ability. I like the sound it makes.
I love it.
But yeah, like I guess like in terms of like actual individual abilities, I just think there's other classes where there's like the individual abilities are more enjoyable. Like I said, cheap shot, great ability. I love blast wave as a mage, great ability. I love chain lightning from a shaman.
Blast wave should, if they're gonna add anything to mage, I think because like if you're talking about like Psalm and like class changes, I think Mage needs the least. I think Mage needs basically nothing added to it compared to the other class. I think the other classes need a lot of things added to it. I think Mage needs things added specifically to like Arcane needs to be adjusted, and I think Blast Wave should knock back.
Yeah,
I think that would be dope. I think
would be
like
cool.
small stuff like that would work because Blast Wave in Wrath.
The days isn't enough, right? Like,
My God, the Blast Wave is it in TBC that the knockback is that, or is it in Wrath? I think it is. I think it is in Wrath because it is for sure.
It is in
Wrath.
Wrath,
They
but-
add Thunderstorm and all that. It feels so good because it's like a little knockback. It's just like a little baby knockback. It's not like Thunderstorm or anything. It's not crazy. But it's just like it feels so good for like mob manipulation and like PvP in general. It gives you like a good feel
little interrupts like for PvP.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant spell.
Yeah, and I just like it thematically. I like the sound. I like the animation particularly. I really like the animation.
Yeah, that's why I always played. I have always been and will always be. I'm an elemental enjoyer. I always play with Blast Wave. You will not catch me without Blast Wave.
Elemental PvP.
It's
Great
the
fun
best
spec.
It's the best spec. It is unironically the best spec for world PvP. Nothing even comes close because shattering fireballs
with the ignites is nuts.
It is insane. It is bonkers. It is the most. That is the specific, and that's like the most niche thing. Like people like don't know about this. Co-op empowered shattering of a fireball is better than holding your child after they've just been born. Nothing can compare to that feeling. It's too good. It's too good, which is why the nuclear family needs to be dissolved. I'm sorry, and we need to seize the means of World of Warcraft and begin to disseminate what because right now the nuclear family is what's people that moms telling sons to stop grinding in the basement and to mow the lawn. That is our problem. That's the reason why we're not all currently in full dive MMOs. That's the reason why we're not Sword Art Online. That is the reason why we're not. It's because people want the lawns mode, but that's not important. What's important is that I get the dual wield power in fucking Sword Art Online, but we're not there yet. We're not ready for these takes. We're stuck in the fucking Stone Age, bro. We're out here crushing nuts with rocks, and I'm in the space age.
Can I take you two fucking clowns on the wildest of tangents now that you've said that, North? Hey, your boy Stephen Sharif, announced yesterday on Twitter a system coming to Ashes of Creation.
Inventory management. How do you feel about
inventory management. Now, notably, only for gathering mats or whatever. So that's okay. That's that. And I'd love to hear you and
it's weird to striate them, right? Go ahead.
I'd love to hear you and Hunk talk about this. Hunk, did you have a question about this?
No, lay it on me. Explain.
Yeah, so basically, they're doing the spatial inventory thing. We're do the Resident Evil Tetris style.
Yeah. Is it going 3D or something? Is it like?
But only for gathering mats. So if you're mining or herbing or whatever, you got to figure out your
darker system, right? Like the some things are long and skinny, some things are fat, something like the
old
Diablo inventory system.
They do stack.
That's not a bad idea, though, right? Like.
Well, it was getting mixed reactions, and I'm sort of a bit like I'm not.
You're a mixed reaction.
Well, I don't know. I am a mixed reaction. I don't know how I feel about this one, and I'd love to hear. Fucking win me over. I'd love to hear what you guys think about something like that in an MMO.
Look, I'm my hot take. I've never found inventory management fun in any game ever, and I'm not going to start now with an MMO trying to make me. Do the Resident Evil thing. Like, I get that, like, inventory management, it's a part of a lot of games, and it bleeds into, like, the fun in other ways, right? But, dude, I don't know.
North, have you got the time for rearranging your bags?
I agree with that. It's like, I'm not offended by it. I'm not like, oh God, this is bad. Like, but I get why it's having mixed reactions, and the best reason why I can share it, why it just because it's, why it's why like is it
necessary?
It just feels unnecessary. Like, is this adding anything? Is this really doing anything? It's like it'll be there and I'll interact with it. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I've arranged my rocks in a way. Yes, I've created a Dix out of the two boulders and the lots of little pebbles in my inventory. Haha! Like
I can fit another set of cherries in.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh yes, this abnormally shaped oblong rock. Aha! Now I can fit another health potion next to it. Like, is that the gameplay we're looking? And maybe we are. Maybe that's something that I think that I don't want, but I actually do. Maybe I'm just not.
But this is why I was
space brain enough to like figure out why that's a good thing. I have always liked systems like that though. I like when inventory systems are like, ooh, the sword is long, ooh, the shield is big. Like I like that. I think it's fun, but like, is it if you're gonna only do it for some things, you're like, oh yes, this is a serious system for serious people, and it's like, is it though? Like, is that serious?
Yeah,
is it deep like that? Like I don't know.
The only thing I could think of is like, is this like to combat gathering bots or something? I don't know, but the rule number one.
I think it's to be replaced. I think it's designed to like it to be instead of like a weight system maybe. So it's like, okay, you don't have a weight system, but like the rocks take up more space.
He had a point. I wish I remember what it was. He did say he's opposed. No, not opposed. He said he preferred. They did this for a reason. Obviously, they thought of the weight system, but he didn't want to go with that.
Correct. And so I think there is a good reason for it, and it is clearly that it's that they want to limit certain kinds of resources, and you shouldn't. Maybe it makes sense that if I have 1,000 sticky notes versus 1,000 boulders, that they're not the same thing, right? Like it doesn't. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, because shouldn't it just be that, right? Like maybe the rocks, you could just have the rocks stack up less. Like there are other solutions to that within the world already that this doesn't feel like it necessarily solves. If you just make the rocks stack in smaller stacks, it's effectively the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
If you make it, it's like, okay, well, this health potion takes up 1 square and the rock takes up 4 squares. It's like, okay, let the rock stack 4 times less often, rather than doing this weird shit where we have to like play Tetris in our inventory. You know, like, is that really? And they're probably gonna have an auto sort button anyways. It's like, did we really? And I'm not mad about it. I feel like I sound mad. I feel like I really sound irritated for some reason, but I'm not. It's just confusing.
He's so mad.
And someone's gonna have an add-on or a mod. They'll mod it, and it's just gonna solve it for you.
There are no add-ons.
Oh, you just stole Tim's fucking point from YouTube chat, you prick.
I'm not reading YouTube chat. What are you
Tim's
talking
chats
about?
and stealing.
Oh, there is one in there. He's right. He's right there.
They will not. They are not allowed. Obviously, there might be some Final Fantasy.
There'll be some overlays that do it.
For sure. Yeah, but they're not allowed. And this is incredibly based. No add-ons is sick. Although that being said, if WoW removed add-ons, I would have a catatonic. I would go into a depression that would last years.
WoW's not designed to.
It will, because their UI is Tim, I'm gonna ignore the presence of Mr. Jones. The WoW interface is fucking terrible. It's awful. Like, it is fucking awful. It's just the worst. And the add-ons make it literally amazing. Like the interface, my interface is beautiful. I deserve like a Nobel Prize in UI design. Like it's my UI is gorgeous beyond belief. It is perfect, I think, or near perfect. And it's only possible with add-ons.
Is it just a full? Is it just a full screen anime character? Is that your UI?
No,
that's
not
what
at all.
I'm guessing.
What?
You're the anime guy.
Stop trying to call me I'm not an anime guy. I watch some anime. It's maybe an anime.
He's into yiffing, Josh. It's different.
It's fine. There's nothing wrong with liking anime.
I like anime. I started watching some, like, because my friend kept recommending me, like heavily recommending to me, Demon Slayer, and I tried to watch it like 2 or 3 times. I just couldn't do it because I was watching, like, I wasn't indoctrinated enough. I watched my animes dubbed. I watched them in English because I was like, yeah, I don't want to like sit there and just watch it. You know, I want to do other stuff. I want to be gaming while I do it. I can't listen to it in Japanese. I don't fucking speak Japanese. You know, what the fuck am I going to do? And so I only watch shows with like good dubs, right? And so I couldn't watch Attack on Titan. You know, I couldn't watch Demon Slayer. The dub, the English voice actors were so terrible, and I tried to watch it like 2 or 3 times.
Attack on Titan
couldn't
have
do it.
shit
It was
dub?
awful. It was just the worst. And then I watched it in Japanese. He's like, no, you really have to. It's really amazing. Watch it in Japanese. Please just bear with me. And I was like, I have to just watch this show. I don't just watch TV. And he was like, just try it. And I did it. Brilliant, amazing, awesome in Japanese. And I'm like now addicted. Like I don't watch shows anymore. Like after this was a couple months ago, I don't watch shows anymore without just watching the show. Like I sit there, I just want to watch the show. I don't want to do anything else.
I got chastised by Patricia for being the guy that was like, you know, watching the English dub or whatever. And obviously it's a big thing where she's like, please just watch in Japanese, blah, blah, blah. But there are some shows that I think it definitely works, you know, taking on the Japanese and just reading the English subtitles. But she's watching some new one at the moment that she loves, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, Hunk, why don't you pick what we fucking talk about next?
I would like to talk about why North feels his UI is superior to everybody
well, that's what I was
else's.
getting
I
at,
want you to
Do
describe it.
you want to? Oh, here. I'm gonna post it and here. Well, you know, it's posting it is not good enough. Okay, so here's
Well,
just
You
do
need the
it
full
justice.
experience, right? It's not
It's like
aesthetics,
Sistine
it's
Chapel.
function.
You gotta be
Let me
there.
explain. No one else does this. Everyone does this one thing. Okay, let me explain this as best as possible. You see everyone with the UI that essentially is a bunch of buttons and procs and bars in the middle of their screen, right? Like everyone's seen that. You have all your little procs.
Yeah.
You have like a button and stuff, right? And it's just they're static. They stay there. It's like it'll show the cooldown. It'll come back. Whatever. You have like the static a bunch of bars.
Yeah, that's my UI.
I don't have. That's stock standard for advanced classic WoW player UI. It was like I think Alondo made like the first like big one because it's like you have your cooldowns there, you have some procs off to the side, you have the stuff that you need to do. Great, it's lovely, right? You might have some abilities at the bottom of
I
your.
still missed the Mazelfizz UI.
The Mazelfizz UI, what's that?
That was one of like the first ever Elv UI, like Tuck UI, kind of like installer type UIs. I was just UI.
But so what I do, I hide my target frame, or sorry, my player frame. My player frame is completely hidden. I have the resource bar from retail, but it's just like a jank WeakAura version that I made in the middle of my screen. So that shows my health and it shows my mana.
All right, post it.
Here.
I'll show it on stream while you're describing it.
This is not in combat. This is not like an in combat thing.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Post it to. Can I post it to this chat or what?
Post it to the vanilla channel or the Wrath channel if it's a Wrath UI.
It is a Wrath UI. It'd be the same in vanilla. Like I would use the same thing in vanilla nowadays.
Josh,
Here,
there we go. So the stream can see. Now you can describe it for the audio listeners.
Sure. So the crucial things about this, and you can't see this in it, everything is centered in that top bar, right? So like the top bar above my health bar. Also, everything is 60% opacity. So no amount of mechanic will no void zone will be on the ground that I can't see through my little buttons for, right? Like you can't ever get caught off guard from having the shit in the middle of your screen. It's actually 45% opacity. All the shit in the middle, those are some of the static cooldowns that are shown. Those go away when you press them. So the gloves at the top, the sapper, the berserking, the combustion that are at the top of that, they go away when you press them. They'll show the duration that they're up. And then when they're gone, when you don't need to think about them, they'll go away. They're still at the bottom of the screen. You can see that bar that shows the static cooldowns, procs, stuff like that. Stuff that you might need to reference in the middle of the fight, but when you don't need your full attention on the fight. Because you can glance down and say, okay, what's the cooldown of this? Okay, berserking's up in a minute and a half. But berserking's only on your screen if it's about to be off cooldown. Every single one of these things, if it's coming off cooldown, it makes a specific sound. It makes the plate or wood sound, which just sounds like tapping a desk. And every single time that a proc goes up, it makes a sound. It's called the robot blip on WeakAura. And so every single thing is coded into that. When my health goes below 35% and I have Healthstone off cooldown, it makes a specific sound that is loud but not too invasive to distract me from other things. But I know it means, okay, my health is low, I have a Healthstone up. When my blink comes off cooldown, it makes a whooshing sound, right? Like I have everything is meticulous on this. It's as clean as possible. You only see what you need to see. The only things that are static that are kind of in your way, blink, cooldown, and blast wave on this. Usually it shows Dragon's Breath. I'm not expecting the Dragon's Breath. In combat, it'll show the debuff for Living Bomb for the timer. It'll show the debuff for Improved Scorch to see that your crit percent is up. Other than that, it's the cleanest shit you could possibly imagine. It relies mostly on sound and on small visual indicators that go away and come back, so the screen is as decluttered as possible. It's brilliant. It's fucking perfect.
Hunk, are we giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I can see why you like it, but it's not for me. I like to build my UI in a way where it's kind of like curves. I use the corners of my screen and keep the middle really clear. That makes sense, like a viewport. So like where you've got your buttons in the middle, I couldn't do that. I would find that distracting.
That's part of the reason. That's why it has low opacity. It's because it
not
recognizes that's the important part. And I used to have my bars in the middle. So effectively, that's the only area that is not viewported for this. Everything else, all the other indicators, my raid note, my raid frames, everything else is at the edges of the screen. My countdowns for bigwigs or DBM. The other WeakAuras, if they're not immediately run out of shit mechanics, they're always at the edges of the screen. With the exception of these ones in the middle that are small and very, very light opacity. And then block timer, because that actually really matters in a lot of AoE farming. It's like exactly when your block is going to end and exactly when your invis is going to go off. Both of those things I have in the middle of the screen, because when you're in the block, the only thing you're concerned about is the block's timer. And when you're invising, the only thing that you're concerned about is when the invis timer is about to expire.
So I've put up my UI, which is just like basically ELV UI, but that's the UI I've used for years now, since like early 2020.
And I think the thing about this that messes with me
All the
is
buttons.
that it's just the bars and
Yeah.
and also like the huge, like my chat box is tiny. Like it's tiny, and the font's pretty tiny as well. Like it's pretty hard to read, but obviously I have my damage frames in the bottom right. Those are like oftentimes hidden, but it's so, like, for me it's just the cleanliness of it. It needs to be clean and effective and as simple and elegant as possible, while still being as effective as humanly possible.
Do you know why I've got all my bars there and literally all of my buttons? Because I play that many fucking classes and I'm on a different character every fucking second week that I need the reminder.
But that's the thing. That's why do you think I have 4 mages? It's literally because my style of UI would not work if you played really more than one. Like my priest, I'm kind of fucked on my priest, and I switched from shadow to healing because it's too hard to remember, like, to have, like, not have the bar shown and have all this shit like on a different class. Whereas a healer, almost everything you're doing is through your frames. So it's like it's a completely different game. I can do that super effectively without having to interfere with anything else, and I don't have to like think about my other keybinds or do anything. Nope, everything is just always for Mage, always the same, always exactly what it needs to be. Everything is as clean, as hidden, as tidy as possible. I love it. It's brilliant.
So we've got Hunks. Hunks sent a good one through. He goes, "This is my UI, Josh." We're showing that on stream now. That's a good one. Where'd you find that, Hunk?
Oh, just Professor Google, of course.
Yeah, good one, good one.
Is it the one that is like just chock full beyond belief?
There were some
like,
shockers back in the day.
So much information on it that no single person could possibly process a half of it. Yeah.
So
there's a
stupid.
shaman in my guild that he dies very frequently, and we were like, hey, like, can we look at your UI? Like, is that because we do that with everyone? We're like, hey, like that's probably like a relevant thing for that, and it looked like that. Like we were like, yeah, like really, he's playing the DDR class, he's playing Enhancement Shaman, and then his screen looks like he's playing DDR at the same time. It was impossible to.
If they do anything for Shaman in Som 2, I'm probably going to roll one. Who am I kidding?
Shaman's sick. Oh, the thing that I was saying that they should add. I finally remember this. I wasn't even trying to remember it. I'd let it go. I'd let go of the grief of not remembering it. They need to add faction betrayal quests at level 30.
Faction betrayal. Like you can lose your rep.
You switch factions.
Like, but which factions are you talking about?
Yeah, so you can be a human paladin on Horde.
Oh, I see.
And you have to go through this long and like grueling quest chain. Like, say it's like a tier 2 type quest chain where you like are espionaging for the ops. You're like currying favor and you're like espionaging in, and it's like a tier 0.5, maybe not that long, but it's like a long ass quest, and it'll allow you to swap factions.
I'm into it. Hunk?
Look, I like anything that's going to shake things up a little bit, right? But keep the flavor of the game the same.
Yeah.
Is it still the same flavor for you? Is it still vanilla? Or
well, there would be people that wouldn't approve of Horde and Alliance doing a dungeon side by side.
Well, I'm down with that. That's fine.
Yeah,
because factions are kind of like, they're kind of whatever. Can't we all just get along? Can't we all just be bro?
Or kill each other, right? Can't we all just kill each other? Exactly. Full hardcore. It needs to be the discrimination based on faction. Like, I don't identify more with the Alliance than I do with the people who live in Ungoro Crater. They're more my faction than any specific gnome or like realistically, it's fucked up that I just automatically ally with and do not attack and cannot attack people because they're the same race as me and they're the same race as the people that I like hang out with. That's fucked up.
It's kind of offensive when you think about it.
It is offensive. I should be able to choose the people based on creed, right?
No, I'm down for free-for-all PvP. The only logistical nightmare there is the amount of players around you.
Oh, for sure. It would require like fundamental adjustments to like lineage or arcade style systems where you can punish people for the things that they do. Like there needs to be real abilities to disincentivize that kind of thing. Permit it, but disincentivize it, a la, Ash's lineage arcade, where there are punishments for flagging in areas that are normally not where you'd want to be killing people. But then you'd have lawless areas like on Guro, which I think would be really cool. I think games benefit from that kind of flexibility because it's the same reason I have the problem with like the death thing. I think a lot of people don't understand why I'm so mad at like the death run back. It's because you can just not interact with it at all, right? If someone dies, there is no option for them. There's no option for you to prevent them from doing what they do as they res. It's the same thing with a fellow faction member. If you have a fellow faction member and they're griefing you, you can't just kill them, and you should be able to. There should be some cost of it. So it shouldn't just be like, okay, this is now default, just a fine thing to be doing. I'm just going to kill my faction all day long. But there should be an option for you at some kind of considerable cost to stop people from then being able to grief you. Right? You could kill Teeny Violin in your raid, right? Like right before when you see that he's doing that. Every mage is like, mage's combustion, turn. Everyone just literally one-shots Teeny Violin. Select gets taunted out. The raid is saved. Well, how? If you can PvP your raid mid-raid.
I'm too dumb to figure this one out. Spahana says the following in reaction to what you've just said. The big thing with North's faction betrayal point, this makes DPS specs of healing classes more viable in a rebalance. Right now, 37.5% of classes can heal, 30% of classes in Nax need to be healers. That's 3 slots for Ret / Prot, Pally, Feral Cat, Feral Bear, Boomkin, Shadow Enhance, and Ellie to fight for. I'm not sure. Do you know what he's saying there? I'm not sure what, in terms of the faction betrayal, where that comes in. Spahana, what do you mean? You might need to extrapolate on that point. This makes the DPS specs of healing classes more viable in a rebalance.
I'm also confused by that.
I'm not sure. Sorry, Spahana. Hey, Vic Romano, how you going?
I'm a dum-dum. I'm definitely confused.
That's all right. No, Spahana's on the ball. They make some good points, so I'm sure they'll clarify. But that's all right. Guys, look, let's do it. We might actually start to wind it up. I think, Hunk, you and I have a night ahead of us if you've got the time to maybe do some...
I'm already playing right now.
Oh, you are very good. Well, look, I've got to have some dinner, but after that, would you perhaps...
Yeah, I'm going to have a bite to eat too. I just wanted to learn my buttons so I didn't embarrass myself.
Would you be so kind as to play...
What are you playing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm playing a priest.
Very nice, very nice.
Discipline priest.
Priest has this is the last thing I'll say. Priest has no buttons that feel good in Classic. I'm sorry, not a single one other than
I would agree with that actually.
Even
Except for mind, I love mind control though.
But mind control isn't really a button because you have to go like you can do your taxes in between the time you start casting and when you finish casting.
Yeah, that is very true.
I love mind flay. I'm weird like that.
What is wrong with you?
I know. I'm sorry. Wait, Spahana's going to jump in and explain. All right, here we go. Here's the big chance. Spahana, can you hear me?
The final arc of the podcast.
So, right now in vanilla, if you are rolling a healing capable class, but you are not healing, you are essentially creeping your raid. You're playing a very suboptimal role.
Mm-hmm.
Having 4 classes out of 9 instead of 3 out of 8 that can heal in a hypothetical world where the classes are reasonably balanced takes a lot of that pressure off. And it means that there are more slots where these meme specs can actually be played. Whereas right now, even if you made, Shadow, Enhance, Ellie, whatever the case may be, viable and justifiable, you would still have to say, I'm sorry, but we need you to heal. We don't have enough healers. So that's my fundamental point.
You have more classes so we can just bully more shamans into healing on Alliance. I like where your head's at.
Right.
We can
Yeah,
let
that
the
does make more.
DPS.
That makes more sense now. Yeah, North. That does make more sense now. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for explaining, Spahana. Anything else you've heard, Spahana, that you wanted to comment on?
I mean, that was my one basic point of there's a tie-in between cross-faction shamans and paladins and the viability of non-healer specs out of traditionally healer classes.
All good, all good. Hey, Spahana, are you playing the PTR?
I played one Iraqi Basin very casually, just to give them some data in the pool. What I'm really just hoping that we get is the actual numbers, the actual curve, because I don't want them to implement on error a system that's broken and requires multiple retweaks and just creates a mess. On Season of Mastery, we didn't realize that they implemented the formula wrong until 2 resets in. And I'm very much hoping that we can kind of check their work and make sure that what they're implementing isn't going to produce something that has negative impacts on the error community.
Yeah, I think
quality assurance is important. Yeah.
You were one of the people, Spahana, there was a couple of people saying this in the Discord going, look, very, very early indications are this looks fantastic, but if they get the numbers wrong on this curve, this could be a fucking nightmare. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm very cautiously optimistic. The 750k for essentially the standing one felt like a sane amount of honor. But if I'm misunderstanding something or the curve is wrong, that could genuinely invalidate ZG, A220, MC, and BWL if this gear is ridiculously accessible.
Yeah, a lot of people were worried about that, North. Again, just getting the good PvP gear way too early.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really invalidate those things. Like it does give it to you early, even if these things become accessible. Realistically, the game, like there still are items to farm. Obviously, it does make like some of those things feel less impactful, but not everyone is going to PvP. A lot of people still won't PvP, and so you have different facets of the game. The game isn't. I think one thing that's really strong about vanilla is that the game doesn't revolve around any one thing. Whereas like in later versions you see in TBC and Wrath, it kind of starts to become very, very monolithic around PvE. And so that would be extremely important. If there were an equivalent of it in Wrath, it would feel very, very weird and damaging to the progression if there were like very strong PvE gear available. But for a lot of classes, it's not all that impactful. Obviously the weapons are massive for melee, they always will be. It still doesn't make it so that you're not doing BWL or MC or ZG. You're doing those for other separate and important reasons.
Yeah.
Even when your raid has full rank 14, right? There were raids that did them. So I don't think it will. Definitely disincentivizes it a little bit, but it's not going to make it that crazy. And then people who really don't want to raid, if they have an accessible way of getting this gear more easily, then you don't force them into doing something, even if it's at the cost of some of their power. So I think ultimately it's fine. I'm not super worried about it. If they undershoot the honor a little bit, I think 750 is a little undershot. I think that like maybe 850 would make more sense, but it depends if they, they'll probably need to adjust honor per hour or like honor values in general to like kind of prevent the AV cringe. Or maybe they don't even need to, right? Realistically, maybe they don't even need to, just because it's no longer against each other.
All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up. But last question before we go. Spahana, you can, if you're okay with it, mate, I'm going to throw you a guest spot for this last question from our friend Tim J in chat, who says the following. Guys, has there been any discussion yet about when would be the most appropriate time to release the PvP system and Battlegrounds and their respective reputation and rank rewards on a fresh progression server? Now, it's a good question because we've seen both stories. We saw sort of what happened in Classic 2019 and we saw what happened in SOM as well. So Spahana, what do you think? Is there an easy 100% answer that should never be changed for when the PvP system should be released on a fresh server?
No, there's always not going to be a one-size-fits-all, everyone can agree on this. What I would do if I was God Emperor of the universe is have up to rank 10 available pretty much immediately and have up to rank 14 unlocks so you can start progressing it with BWL, and that would have them released a few months later. I'm sure North is going to hop in right now and eviscerate me and tell me why I'm stupid, so let's go for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's not a bad idea. Just
yeah, I think that's fine as well. I completely agree. I think that that's probably the best thing for it.
It's very reasonable. At least like because then the PvP weapons and off sort of bits are coming in kind of when they're not completely outshadowing the available raid loot as well.
Yeah, and then you also get this sort of this dichotomy where tier 2 actually for mage, like even from like a purely selfish mage reason because I know the most about it, there's still a reason to get tier 2 before rank gear comes out or after rank gear comes out, but you like it's huge. It feels so good. It feels insanely fun to get that gear when you're going in. It does invalidate the other gear a little bit, but then you're kind of on the hamster wheel more. Like you're like, oh, I want this rank 10 gear, and now the video's out. I really want tier 2. Okay, now rank gear's out. Okay, I really want these off pieces of rank gear for some situations, and then full rank gear for like some really stam heavy situations. So you get a lot of that vanilla sort of mix and match. I'm totally with that. Yeah, I think rank gear should come out. Rank 10 should be out pretty much immediately. Maybe not right away. I think that maybe holding off on releasing it would make the most sense. Have the fresh server at the start. Let people focus on their BIS. Don't make people. Don't force them. I think the phase 1 thing was actually really good for Classic, where it wasn't people weren't immediately jumping into it because then you farm your BIS and some of that kind of some of those memories that you form where everyone's in the dungeon together. It's not immediately sort of overshadowed. I think they saw that in Somme. When things are a little too available, they're overshadowed very quickly, and I think that could be a problem.
I was definitely going to raise that, and Hunk, I'll throw this to you because it does seem like there are inherent problems with having a PvP system available from the outset in that, just like North said, look, players seem to enjoy en masse the process of gathering pre-raid BIS, doing all your 5-man dungeons, hoping for your gear, getting that drop and just spamming dungeons and having a bit of fun. But then in a world where you maybe have some desirable PvP items out there, even if it's like even rank 10 items, you might have a lot of people inclined to walk away from the pre-raid BIS grind and just go for the Battleground shit. I don't know. I don't look at the gear, whatever, but like I presume like that's something you would want to avoid, right?
Yeah, I think so. You want to. You've got like multiple lines of progression, and there's no reason to stack them on top of each other. If you can stagger them a little bit, like what North was saying with the mage, like that makes perfect sense to me. It's like you've always got a reason to keep coming back, and Whereas
if you get like, for instance, if the only issue here is right, like you look at it, you have to look at the layering. Like if MC's out and rank 10 gear's out, why you don't even need MC gear? You need MC gear for off pieces. You don't give a fuck. If the only thing is out is MC, if MC out is the only thing that's out, and also rank gear is out, you just don't want to do MC at all as a mage because you have way better shit to be getting from ranking. So it feels pretty bad, right? So you don't, Arcanist doesn't mean anything. Your tier 1 means nothing to you. Whereas in phase 1 of Classic, what felt really, really good and what they really executed on, perhaps accidentally, is it felt sick to get your Necropile gear before you got your Arcanist. So you'd farm in Scholomance, you get all those blues from Skolo, the set. It was sick. It was awesome. It gave you a ton of stamina, a ton of health. It was like and I made like a Bissless guide on that. Like that was one of my most popular videos. It was like, this is the set to be going for. And all the streamers, like were using that set. Like it was a thing that people were tapped into. It's not like I created it, but it was like a huge thing. And so you were farming all these Scolomances for it, and you were getting your thing. And then it was like, oh, okay, now I'm getting my Arcanist. I want that 3 set really badly for the extra spell power. Yada, yada, yada. And those pieces were really, really strong compared to other stuff. They had a lot more stamina and a lot more intellect. And so you then get these multiple layers. Some classes will have it so that it doesn't really matter and it won't work in the same way that it worked for Mage. I'm not familiar with their progression as intimately, but Mage, it ends up being perfect if you delay. So it's like, okay, pre-bis gear, okay, into MC gear, okay, into rank 10 gear, okay, into tier 2, all right, into rank 13 and rank 14. So that sort of cadence works really, really well. I think that then you run into the issue, and obviously we're running short on time. We've been running short on time. I think that then it questions, okay, then what does the progression away from that look like that makes sense? Because I think AQ raises some problems with how progression evolves and how character progression looks for Mage specifically. It does. Maybe for other classes it doesn't. I think for other classes it actually doesn't. I think AQ feels good for a lot of people, and it doesn't for Mage specifically. So
I've pushed you guys too hard. We might wind it up there. This has been a near 4-hour podcast. It's been epic. Thank you so much, guys. Look, I fucking had a blast, but I can hear we're all getting a bit tired, so I might call it there. Oh my God,
Long one.
Spahana, thank you so much for jumping in, mate. I really appreciate you getting in there and clarifying and being part of the stream.
Thank you for having me.
North, mate. It's funny because I don't want you to do the thing obviously that you normally do, which is you obviously sit there and very graciously tell us how much you love us and how much you love being part of the show. Let's do something different. Let's get you being, I don't know, a prick or something. But mate, I push you so hard, and here we are 4 hours later. But like, it's funny whenever we talk about vanilla. I know you're loving Wrath and you've got all the Wrath talk in you, but it just never dies, does it? This love for vanilla, and we're about to do it all again. And I've kind of like, I'm titillated by the fact that we are about to not only just do vanilla again, but talk about it again. I'm really excited and I'm really happy. Thanks for doing all that, mate.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I make this no secret, and I say this all the time. The guild that I currently am running, alongside infamous, hardcore terrorist instigator T Mugsy, is for things like vanilla. It's not for Wrath. We don't play for Wrath. We don't. We're playing Wrath, and we want to do well. We want to have fun. We want to perform well. We want to do the best we possibly can. We're playing it for other MMOs, right? For, eventually for Ashes, for Psalm, Classic Plus, whatever you want to call it. Maybe Riot's MMO ends up being good, but we want to do the MMOs that, to make this group for the MMOs that really, really have that fire to them, right? And so yeah, it's a fucking blast. I love to. There's a reason why it's 4-hour podcast, because we could sit here for the 12 hours and not shut the fuck up about vanilla, because it is
that
there's
good.
an innocent beauty and just replayability and just awesome, I don't know, completeness and fluidness and just integrated experience that it provides that other versions of it just doesn't. So as much as I can appreciate the other versions and try and, especially try and like contextualize and really try and enjoy in the moment doing it, it's peas and carrots. Absolutely. Compared to vanilla, right?
Hunk, mate. I mean, backing off of North's point, it does feel a lot like we're effectively all going to be the same player base that goes on to the next game, and we're all just hanging out in the Macca's car park shooting the shit, waiting, like biding our time, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it seems like at the moment. It's all, it used to be waiting on Warhammer, and now it's waiting on Warcraft.
Exactly. Mate, Hunk,
someone was in my chat earlier. It was Zulace, like an old classic buddy.
Everyone knows Zulace.
We were talking about new Psalm
fame.
stuff, and it was just like, I was talking to him, and I was getting really excited about it again, and I stopped myself, and I was like, we can't keep doing this though. We can't keep we're gonna be 55 years old, because like we're the 20 somethings, my crew, and it was we're gonna be 55 years old, so we're 30 years down the line, and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, Psalm 8. And we joked about this like when Classic launched, and here we are again. It's literally the round 2 again. It's classic now.
Hey, tell me, did Zulace ever wind up getting that B-res?
Yeah, I think he did. In the end, right?
Very good.
That's the story he needed. I think that's why he's still around, right? If death equals delete and he's still hanging, right? He must have.
All right. Let's wind it up, kids. Hunk, say goodbye.
Bye, everybody, and be good to each other.
That's the way. All right. See you, stream. We'll catch you later. Thanks, everyone.